demostrado que los patriotas podemos gobernar y contribuir al aumento de la prosperidad de su gente.
Por la Europa de los conservadores.
This is the way to win together.
Cannot imagine how glad I am to see all of us united again.
Benvenuti, 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 benvenuti. Vi prego di sedere, se possibile, nelle prime file.
Please sit down in the first few rows, if possible. I will be speaking Italian very slowly, as I know that Italians understand each other well with Spaniards. When I speak with the Spaniards, I speak Italian very slow, and they speak Spanish very slow, and we understand each other perfectly. That said, please welcome on stage the Vice President of the European Conservative Party, Harkevork Seder, so that we can greet him. Jorge Buxade.
E dall'est dell'Europa, dalla Polonia,
and from Eastern Europe, Poland, the Polish Member of Parliament, Radoslav Foger. So now, please stand up so that we honor our flags.
Viva la Spagna!
Long live Spain.
Allora, cari amici, ieri abbiamo avuto una giornata meravigliosa dedicata ai giovani.
Yesterday we had a wonderful day that was devoted to the young people in this very important venue. 60 young people coming from across Europe and further afield showed that conservatives across the globe have a new generation that is willing to take on the baton. We are talking about men and women who are training with our initiatives. Let me thank the whole of Spain and my VP, Jorge Buxade, for inviting us here to this final event in Madrid in a wonderful setting. As here, this is where we had bullfighting, which is a testimony of the huge heritage that we can neglect. And we must recognize that. And well, I give the floor to our landlord, so to say.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Many thanks of you for being here. It's a pleasure to welcome to all of you to this event. por supuesto voy a hablar en español, porque
And of course, I will be speaking in Spanish. I am part of the European Conservatives and Reformists, part of the ECR group and ECR Party, and this has meant for Vox, over the last 5 years of mandate, European mandate, has meant that we got to know organizations, parties, leaders, and representatives that are very much aligned with the way we see life, family, nation, and the future of Europe. And I believe it has been very good for Vox and for the other members of this family, and I hope that such as in good, strong families that we want for Spain and our nations, on June 9, our family, our ECR family, will grow with each individual party growing in the next European election. So with our strength, vitality, excitement, we can attract other parties, other new parties, which might appear in the European Parliament, as the patriot and conservative family is without any hesitation the future of Europe. Social Democrats and People's Parties members, they have the power. But we have everything else. We have the excitement, the strength, the value, the courage, the intelligence, the idea, the culture, the Europe of the populace and social democrats is very small, as you can see. Well, it fits in a few buildings in Brussels. Our Europe is so big that knows no limit. Our Europe is here, all the way to Tallinn, from the Urals to the Canary Islands, but also we are talking about the Ibero-America and Europe as is a sister of Europe. Their Europe is only 50 years old. Our Europe is 2,500 years old. Their Europe has 4 mottos. Is surrendered to woke globalism, is subjected to radical Islamism, and have given up against their enemies. Our Europe, that of conservatives, that of patriots, is strong and is deeply rooted in Greece, in Roman and in the cross. So, with one eye on the clock, let me add that on June 9, they will hear us. As on June 9, we will make our voices heard. The future is ours, belongs to patriots. It belongs to conservatives. It belongs to young people. It's ours, and we are going to conquer it as freedom and justice are not given away. We conquer them on the streets, as we are doing. Thank you very much.
Dalla Polonia, in terre che stanno passando dei momenti veramente difficili.
Well, now we move to Poland, where they're going through hardship. So we have our dear colleague Mr. Fogiel.
By saying great thanks to the Vox Party, to Jorge, to Santiago Abascal for inviting us here, for organizing this enormous event. We've been to Viva before, and it's always a great place to be, a great place to meet fellow conservatives, fellow freedom fighters, and fellow patriots. Welcome and thank you. We are just before the European election, and it's natural that our discussions today, yesterday, tomorrow will be focused on the issue of Europe. What kind of Europe we want as conservatives, as people who love their home countries. Because right now our values, everything that is dear to us, are under attack. The Brussels bureaucrats want to create a European superstate. They want to change the treaties. They want to amend them in a way that all the decisions, all the important decisions, will be taken not in Madrid, not in Warsaw, not in Rome, but in Brussels, and maybe one or two other capitals, the one that always prosper from Eurozone, the one who always prosper from the Green Deal, and other ideological, crazy, woke ideas. And we say no to that, because our Europe is the Europe of nations. It's the Europe that is together, but it's rich by its diversity. We don't want a one superstate that is ruled from Brussels. We don't want more Ursula von der Leyens, more Timmermans to tell us how should we rule our own countries. We know that. Our compatriots know that. Our national governments know that because they are democratically elected. The European Commission is not a democratically elected body. Hence, it shouldn't have the powers of a democratic government. But it's obvious for me, it's obvious for all of us here, but not for everyone. This is the most important issue that we need to speak about, we need to go out, we need to talk to people, we need to make people realize that this is the threat that is coming, that this is a price that we will pay if we don't go and vote for conservative parties. We need conservative voice to be heard in European Parliament. We need a much bigger conservative family, and I can assure you that as European Conservatives and Reformist Party, we will do everything. We will do whatever it is in our power to bring more and more conservative members of European Parliament. Because our countries, our families, our children and the next generations, they deserve to have their own countries, not a European superstate. We'll do it together. Thank you.
Perfect. And now I want to start thanking who helped us in building this big or better great event. Scusate, sono passato all'inglese, continuo con l'italiano. E allora adesso in ordine di grandezza ringrazieremo tutte le nazioni che sono rappresentate qui.
In order of magnitude, we will thank all the nations which are present here today. So we have the smallest delegation, and we will see whether they want to progress. So if you want to progress, you need to be bigger as a delegation. We start with Bolivia, Colombia, Guatemala, Sweden, Serbia, Ukraine. Big round of applause, please. Argentina, Brazil, France, Finland, Germany, Ireland, Great Britain, Hungary, Albania, Bulgaria, the Netherlands, Belgium, Croatia, Czech Republic, and one of the biggest delegations right now, Poland, Romania, Italy, and Spain.
E dobbiamo ringraziare anche chi non è davanti al palco,
we would like to thank also those who are not up on the stage today, but who have made this event possible. The technical staff of Viva, led by Jaime Hernández. In production, Santiago Vidal. The Vistalegre Palace, the personnel from that palace, the volunteers from the different Spanish provinces, etc. Thank you, Jorge, thank you. And we can set up the seats for the panel, and in the meantime, I will say that the European treaties consider the concept of subsidiarity. Not sure how you say it in other languages. Subsidiarity it's like half a football pitch. I do my work, you do yours. But imagine if those who defend invade the area of those who attack. Well, that's exactly what's happening in Brussels. But the bureaucracy is not to blame. Bureaucracy in Brussels is very well prepared, but the bureaucrats are not the ones that should interpret the relationship with the states, because all we will get will be norms and more norms, rules and rules that will drown us, because they will decide what to wear for us. They will tell us where to sit, how to greet each other. All these new rules about what we can and can't do means that sooner or later we'll be forbidden to shake hands with someone like it happened during the pandemic, or to kiss a women on the cheeks. That's already happening in some places. So, subsidiarity, it's very important. We will explain how things are done in Brussels through ECR.
Bene, allora vorrei invitare sul palco Marilu Lucrezio, eccola, il moderatore del nostro primo panel.
Marilu Lucrezio, the moderator for this first panel, please come up to the stage. She is a journalist. She has worked in war zones, and she's a correspondent of the RAI in Brussels.
Qui mi scuserete la pronuncia, Zvonimir Troskot, segretario internazionale.
Forgive my pronunciation for the next panelist. Zvonimir Troskot, International Secretary of the Croatian Most Party. Adela Mirza from Romania, the president of Alternativa Dreapta, or Right Alternative, should be here as well. We can hear her delegation clapping. And Rocío de Mer, member of Parliament and member of Vox.
E allora vorrei lanciare un breve video di presentazione di questo panel. Regia, se possiamo partire col video.
I'm going to show you a video to introduce this panel first.
Can we navigate the complexities of immigration's issue, safeguarding the rule of law, while providing a concrete solution to it? our conservative alternative believes we can and must. We must begin by acknowledging the importance of the issue and emphasize the right to protect our borders, defend our citizens, and maintain order. Illegal immigration is one of the most complex and urgent challenges facing our societies. Our purpose is above mere rhetoric. We recognize the need for a humane but efficient immigration system that not only safeguards our sovereignty but also respects the dignity of every individual. It's about creating a process that sifts through the masses to help those who genuinely seek refuge and also addresses the root causes of illegal immigration. Conservative values, pragmatic solutions.
Sentite? Adesso sì. Buonasera a tutti. I will speak in English so you can understand
Good
better.
afternoon, everyone. I'm going
I
to
will
speak
introduce.
in English.
My name is Marilu Lucrezio. I'm a journalist. I was a war correspondent and I work in Brussels now. I'm the correspondent for the Italian public TV RAI, RIA. My guests are Zvonimir Troskot, International Secretary of Most Party. He is a member of parliament in Croatia. Thank you. Adela Mirza, she came from Romania. She's the president of Alternativa Dreapta Party. And we have from Spain, Rocío de Mer, member of parliament, Vox. So welcome, and we will start. We speak about migration. This is a topic, it's a very important topic for the European Union. I was involved in the migration because I was covering all the news between Tunisia and Libya some years ago. So I can say that this is a very bad situation, not only for the countries that they have to manage with the migrants, but mostly for people that are trying to come to Europe because they are under the power and the criminality of these smugglers, and they are real cruel. Smugglers are also cruel with journalists, so I was threatened because I discovered all the illegal traffic at the border between Tunisia and Libya. They threatened me. They wanted to kill me. They said that I had to be killed from smugglers because I discovered all the traffic. I covered all the news for TG1 on Rai 1. And after 3 months, I had to escape because the situation was real. I was in danger. But I know, now I can say that I know very well this topic. And I can speak because I was involved in this bad situation. I will start to ask to Troskot. Croatia is one of the countries that are involved in the Balkan migration. What can you explain about this, about your country, and how do you manage the migration, please?
Bueno, primero de todo, buenos días, buenas tardes.
First of all, good afternoon, good evening. I thought I'll speak Spanish, but I could end up being confronted with Spain because of my Argentinian accent. I will change to English. I just wanted to greet you in Spanish and thank you for organizing this event. There is many people here who do not speak Spanish, but I wanted to thank you in your language. I am from the generation of soap operas. So I've learned Spanish.
I switch to English now.
I'm so happy to see
I'm
your
very glad
smile.
to be here, and I would like to say my thanks to the organizers. I come from a very small country, Croatia, and I'm very honored to be here today, especially because I come and I represent the constituency in Croatia that has been heavily influenced and under attack, I would say, from the migrants. It has been a hot topic in Croatia ever since 2015, but now that I see like on the field, people are very scared and they have fears because, especially with regards to the people that live next to the border. And whenever someone opens up the topic of migrations and migrants, immediately the Islamophobic or xenophobic labels start popping up. But these labels immediately drop off here because there are a lot of minorities that are living next to the borders, Muslims or Serbs as well, who are having the same issues which Croats are actually suffering. The thing is, I've seen like now, it's not even the migrational crisis. For us, it's the matter of national security, because the migrants are actually passing through Croatia in the smallest part. We call it the soft belly of Croatia, where they are passing through our territories and going into Slovenia. Now, what happened now, people feel so much unsafe that you cannot leave alone your child, and child has to be escorted to the school. Elderly people are scared of the migrants who look like soldiers and who look like very well trained people, not the poor guys coming from countries that are suffering from war. As I'm coming from the constituency which is suffering the most from the migrational crisis, I see no women, I see no children, and I see people being threatened by guns and machetes and knives as well. I've seen like the small groups of migrants which are basically like a military unit, and I spoke about it openly ever since we saw like the crisis happening in Croatia. Being here, I would like to say a couple of more points. Not only that people are feeling unsafe, not only that people are looking for the security. I would like to praise our police guys, police officers, which are doing a great job. But there are two reasons why they're not more efficient. And the first one would be inadequate regulation. And the second one would be lobbyistic activities by the globalistic NGOs, which are behaving like snitches. And there is a great picture of that in the movie of Al Pacino in The Scent of a Woman, when he is defending a small guy called Charlie Sims, and they're accusing him or whatever, and he says, but at least he's not a snitch. Well, what's happening with the globalistic NGOs, they are like snitches, and they are providing basically even disinformation what's going on the field. And one of our solutions for the troubles that we're having is sending the military on the borders, because police guys are not able to cover everything over there. Now, the insecurity which is happening in the forests on the border of Croatia and Bosnia has been transferred from the forests to the highways. And we had a case where the migrants and traffickers actually killed a family, the parents of a child, and just in a day, they just vanished. They were on the highway from Zagreb to Rijeka, which is the third biggest city in Croatia, and all of a sudden there was a van which was packed with migrants, and there was an accident where people got killed. So we have these insecurities not only in the forests, not only on in the parts where the migrants are actually passing through Croatia, but we have the issue now on the highways and the local ways. People feel very insecure driving their cars in that areas.
Thank you. We do another round. I will talk to Adela Mirza. What are the risks of an uncontrolled immigration and the situation in Romania, how the government is facing in Romania, how the government is facing the illegal immigration. Thank you.
Now it's working. Thank you. Thank you. The risks of immigration. I think we're all already witnessing the risks of immigration. Everybody's concerned about the southern borders, Italy, Spain, and they should be. The risks of illegal immigration is instability, economic and social. I don't want to see how Europe will look in 10 years from now. My colleague from Croatia already mentioned the risks. 10%, I think, of the Croatian population already is different. And Ms. Ursula von der Leyen and the EU already are trying to impose more quotas of illegal immigrants to Croatia. How will Croatia look in 10 years from now? Go figure that. Let us understand each other. Europe is a Christian continent. We need to preserve our continent, our values, our families, before we help others. Thank you. Security risks. All these people who are coming in, most of them, they're Muslim people. They're economic refugees. We cannot support them. We already have a broken system that needs to be made safe again. And what world do we invite them in? We already have our problems, our cultural issues. Our system is not working. We need to reevaluate Europe, our systems, our values. They come to a broken Europe, where wokeism, nihilism, all these leftist values are trying to gain Europe. And they come here and they say, look, your system is not working, ours is better. And they stay. We have another problem with natality. Europe, families do not have so many children because they're safe, they play on the safe side. They want to bring up as many children as they can handle. They want to offer them a safe education, a good future. We raise our children in the culture of responsibility. They don't care about this. They come to Europe, they come in Europe, they have as many children as they want. They don't think about their future. This is another problem. And the most important one is the national sovereignty. They come here, they're becoming more and more numerous. You don't have a country if you don't have safe borders. If they come here, they need to understand one thing. They need to work, integrate, accept our values, and become European citizens. Otherwise, they should go back. Thank you. And our culture also is under threat. We need to preserve our values, our cultures. We need to be able to help ourselves first and then help the others. You can't impose the same measures for immigrants that were imposed 30 years ago when the Eastern Berlin Wall fell. We accepted the Eastern people from Eastern Europe into the Western Europe, but this is not the same thing, and we need to understand this. For 30 years, Europe has been like a sponge. It has absorbed populations from all over the world. Syrians, Iraqis, now Palestinians. The only legit migrants, and those are war refugees, are from Ukraine. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adela Mirza. let's speak about Spain. We know that from Spain, migrants, they arrive to Spain through Morocco and through, now there is the other situation of the African coast, the Canary Islands. And I want to give some numbers, because the Canary Islands, they are Spanish territory. They are, last year, in the Canary Islands, 2,100 people arrived in the half of the year. This year, half year, it was like almost 13,000 people. So numbers are very high. So this is the new route, and it's very difficult to arrive to Canary Islands because many boats, they will lose the road. This boat will end up in the Caribbean and the Gulf, and the people on board, they lose their lives. Last year, 6,000 people died. For about 46,000. Of these 46,000, 6,000, they couldn't make it. They were lost, they were in the dead or missing. So this is the problem of the people. They are trying to reach Europe because they want a future. But the problem is that the smugglers, they say that they promise, they arrive, they come to your house, because I know what they do. They come to the countryside, they reach your houses, and they try to convince you to go to Europe. And these people, they want a future, because they are poor, they dream about Europe, and they want to go to Europe. And they believe to the smugglers. They show the big boats. You will go to Europe, you will go to Spain, you will go to Italy with this big boat. It's not true, because then at the end, during the night, they will find themselves with the small boats broken, and they will not arrive, and they want to see Europe. So these people, they don't deserve this. So I will ask to Rocío de Mes, what is going to do Spain to face this problem? Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, lo que está haciendo el gobierno de España.
What the Spanish government is doing, where Vox is not, well, this government is destroying our country. What they are doing is quite the opposite to what we should do, at least to what we should do, so that we are still Spain, as the decisions they've made are keep opening the borders without limits, keep calling without limits hundreds of thousands of people from other countries, and tell them that we have a paradise here that is never there for them. And these are consequences suffered by Spaniards, especially the most humble Spaniards. I want to debunk some myths here, as the open border policies have been built thanks to a series of myths. The first myth, as the moderator mentioned, some figures, the tens of thousands of people coming to Spain through the Canary Islands, but also along the south border of our country. Numbers are really important. We were told that we were welcoming refugees. You all saw these, the flags, welcome refugees. in all the councils and that we had to welcome refugees coming from a war. But the reality is that mostly, we don't have refugees fleeing from war. And these are not 4 people. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of people. So this must help us define what we're talking about. We're talking about 4 individual refugees. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of people. So the model is uncontrolled massive immigration. Why is it important to know what we're talking about, to debunk these myths? If we don't know what we're talking about, we can't detect the problem that comes with it, and therefore the solution. We also heard that there's always been migration. People always moved from and to places after wars, etc. And indeed, we always had migration, human movement across borders. But also there were invasions. So the phenomenon of those arriving is a massive one. When sometimes in a town the population arriving is higher in numbers than those living in the town, they are invading, not just in numbers, but also culturally. And they break and they steal this identity, this local culture, and they break their security, their peace of mind, and the collective identity. Also, we were sold, as our former Secretary of State for Migrations said, we were told that we were welcoming raped women fleeing from war. That was a literal statement. And when we are welcoming male migrants, we don't see raped women fleeing war. Another myth. We must rescue all the boat people coming off the African coasts so that we avoid death in the Mediterranean. So we launched a series of NGOs which are sailing the Mediterranean to rescue all these boats and boat people. So the reality is that for a rescue to be there, there should be first an element of chance. For example, a vessel that loses its course, and this is not the case. What we see is an agreed meeting with a mafia that agrees with an NGO, and sometimes they are talking with the port authorities, maritime rescue authorities, and sometimes they get closer to the origin coast than to the coast of destination. Also, according to the law, for it to be a rescue, what you need to do with a boat that you are rescuing on the sea, you need to take it to a safe harbor. And they don't go to the closest and safest harbor. They go to the most European harbor. So it is not a rescue, what we see in the Mediterranean. And lastly, we were told that this was good for the destination societies, that this was good as we had to believe in the value of multiculturalism. So societies would enrichen if we all carry our cultures and we share them. And the reality, and those who suffer this firsthand know this very well, is that in the case of the Christian culture, we don't want to get enriched by anyone who believed in forced marriage. We don't want to accept institutions from other cultures which are intolerable for us. So I think these myths, and there are many others, well, these are the ones that we want to debunk today here. Thank you.
You know that in Europe, Europe discussed for many months how to change this, what to do with this problem with migration. And then, at the end, after many meetings, the European leaders, they tried to find a final agreement, and they did, they managed it. And then, last April, the European Parliament approved the new Pact of Migration and Asylum. So there are some news about how Europe will manage in the next, starting the next 2 years. In these new rules, there is, for example, the new mechanism of solidarity. It's mandatory. Every country has to do solidarity towards the other countries of the European Union. Because, for example, Italy is one of the most, one of the countries that receives the majority of migrants. There is Italy, there is Spain, there is Greece. The problem is that the other countries, until now, they didn't do so much to help the Mediterranean countries that they receive all the migrants. So now, with the new pact, it's mandatory, it's obligatory for the countries, the 27 countries of the European Union, they have to help the country that receives migrants. So, in which way? They have, for example, to take a part of migrants to their countries. For example, I don't know, Austria decides to take a part of migrants that they arrive to Italy. But if they don't want to take, because they say, no, we don't want to have these migrants because we have enough, but we want to help Italy, for example, they have to give money. They will help with money or through relocation. So financial contribution, operational support, and relocations. Because of course, the rules are that people that are escaping from war, they will have to be in Europe. They will need our help because they are escaping from a war. The economic migrants, the people that are coming from countries that are sure, they are safe, and they are just looking for a work in Europe, they will pass through another procedure, and this procedure will be faster because of the asylum seekers. The procedure will be very fast. So everything is going to change. And with this new pact of migration, the European Union, the external borders are more protected than in the past. So I will ask all of you, what do you think about this new pact of migration? If you agree, and if there are some limitations, one after the other. Thank you. 5 minutes each. Thank you. So, Trotsky?
First of all, we would like to point out that multiculturalism just seemed to be an illusion. And I debated today with our colleague from Sweden, where Sweden is one of the best places to show Europe how does it look like when you accept a huge number of people which are not willing to integrate into the society, and then now you have the military not on the borders, but you have the military in the cities. And that was one of the reasons why Croatia at least our party and people thinking like us, we suggested that military has to go on the central and very vulnerable points of the Croatian border to help out the police officers, where you have already the shots being shot from the traffickers and the migrants towards the police officers of Croatia. So that's the point number one. So it doesn't work that way, okay? Number two, the asylum policy in Europe is not clear. If you take, for example, for instance, Denmark, their policy is zero tolerance asylum policy, which basically means that every single migrant that entered, for example, in Croatia, because we are one of the first countries on the Balkan route, if they are being, for example, if they catch them, for example, in Denmark, they're going to send them back to Croatia as the first country of registration. With regards to the proposal here, for Croatia, this is a very dangerous position, and I'll tell you why. Number one, we're a very small country, less than 4 million people. If we start accepting huge amounts of people to this small country, the cardiovascular system of Croatia is going to change completely. And that's the risk for our country to exist, what my colleague said, in 10 years' time. That's number one. Number two, the position for Croatia, it's risk for the monetary terms as well, because we are not the richest country in Europe, and we're still surviving on the funds in order to get this convergence, which is necessary to live together in... Do I have still time? Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm just double checking. So just because of the monetary reasons for Croatia is very dangerous, because our economy is very vulnerable, it's very dependent on tourism, and if we will be paying this much money for the asylum or the migrants as a penalty fee, it's going to severely impact our economy as well. Just to get the numbers. Last year, in 2023, 60,000 illegal migrants got to Croatia and they got registered. If we have to pay the fine of 20,000 euros per capita, right? We would have to pay, for example, like 12 Rafales, which we bought like the last year for our security in order to protect our borders. And this is the money that we do not have. So one of the solutions that Croatia is actually offering on the table is that the asylum seekers, they have to be in the general consulates of Croatia or any other European country outside of European Union. So, and that's the point which Rocio mentioned, our grandparents also immigrated to other countries, but they legally registered it for the countries outside of the country where they wanted to immigrate, right? So our proposal is to get our consulates outside of European Union, and if someone is willing to legally come, and if our labor market is requiring those numbers, then we can accept them. Not only Croatia, but every single country within European Union. Denmark is very strict with the migration policy because they made the assessments. These people are not coming from the war zones anymore. It's very important to know that. There's no more war in Afghanistan, for example, or take another country. There are no wars anymore. So if there's no war and you're willing to come here on the economical reasons, because of the economical reasons, then you have to go legally into the European Union. Otherwise, it's going to be the water down of the Christian and Croatian population.
Thank you. Adela Mirza, thank you very much.
I'll try to be brief. First of all, we should change illegal into legal. There's this saying, support illegal, how do you immigration? Well, make it legal. You can't support something that's illegal. Everybody who comes to Europe has to come legally. Our laws I have 3 words for you: law, order, and compassion. We are compassionate. We're trying to help them, but make it legally. Our laws are to be respected and abided. Our solutions for this: Italy has a plan. It's called the Mattei plan. It works, but it works only for Italy. Maybe the whole Europe should embrace Mattei plan or try to work something similar. If you want, thank you. Keep them in the northern African countries with similar cultures, similar religion. Offer them something there. Invest there in technology, in creating jobs. Keep them there. Help them there. Maybe when the war is over or their crisis in their country is over, they can go back. Second, enforcing border control. Double your agents, even physical control if it's necessary. I know it sounds harsh, but this is the only way to keep a safe Europe. Try to keep the borders safe, otherwise we don't have a country. And you asked me before, and I didn't answer to the first question, what Romania did. We had our war refugees, real war refugees from Ukraine, and we accommodated them the best way we could. We've done a fine job, and we're still doing it. But there's something else to be considered, and I said this in Cyprus in an ECR conference before. Watch out for the eastern borders. Europe is not threatened only in the south. We have a huge bear in the east. If Ukraine falls, we're going to be next. We won't have a Europe if Ukraine falls. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adela Mirza. Rocío de Mes.
Bueno, has preguntado sobre el Pacto de Migración y Asilo.
You were asking about the Migration and Asylum Pact.
Se nos queda muy corto.
We think it hasn't gone far enough.
Porque lo que viene es tan gordo que si no construimos
a real huge problem is coming our way, and if we don't set up mechanism to change that, to protect our borders, it will be absolutely impossible to maintain Europe as it is, numerically, culturally, in every way. Another myth we must debunk is that there is not an international right to migrate. We have an international right to stay. The natural thing for men is to stay, to grow roots, to stay with your family, to build your nation, to build your homeland, to create your communities. And that is something we're taking away from those who are pulled out of their families and their countries. But also, we're taking it away from those whose communities and their homeland is being destroyed from the inside, like it is happening to us. And also, we've been told that it's inevitable, that we can do nothing about it. We must open our borders. We're going through a demographic winter, and this is what will save our economies, this migration. But we say it is avoidable. It is reversible. Of course we can protect our borders. Of course we can revert the demographic winter. We must have the will, though. We need the political will. Of course, we can hope to have demographic sprint. Of course, we can have natality birth rate measures. We can do all of this. We can benefit families from the tax point of view. We have to give funds for having children. We can make the population aware and that their the collective identity can be protected, that they have a right to demand that their culture be preserved. We can knock down that microstructure of media, which constantly, day and night, have sold us those myths, which are total lies and which are destructive to our culture.
Se puede también combatir esa fragilidad en la que nos han introducido.
We can also fight that fragility we find ourselves in. If we say we want Spain to continue to be Spain and Greece to continue to be Greece, then we are called racist, xenophobes, extreme right activists. When we say a truth about our borders, we are insulted, and we can't change that. And all of you are doing that just by being here today.
So I thank you, all of you, and thank you so much. Thank you for following us. And so it's finished. We go to the next panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie Marilu, grazie Zvonimir, grazie Adela, grazie Rossio, ho imparato. E ora invitiamo sul palco i prossimi oratori che parleranno di un argomento molto delicato, unendolo a un argomento molto ludico, quindi tutta la parte che riguarda il turismo che è legato alle nostre radici. Prima di tutto,
everything related to tourism, that's what we're going to be looking at. Tourism and our roots. We will have Alessandra Priante moderating. She's the president of ENIT in Italy. The ambassador Sados from Poland will be here also. Gianluca Caramanna, MP from Italy. Patricia Rueda, a member of parliament, Spain, from Vox. And I will show you an introductory video, and then I wish you a good panel discussion.
Take a look around you. We must not forget about the timeless beauty and significance of these sacred sites, reminding the profound legacy they represent. From Athens to Jerusalem, from Santiago de Compostela to Lourdes, from Chenstokhova to Rome, the Judeo-Christian landmarks stand as testaments to Europe's pillars. They inspire us to preserve our cultural heritage and to rediscover the timeless ideals that guides us on our political journey. Pilgrims tracing the contours of faith, we all are custodians of a legacy that spans millennia. Conservative values, pragmatic solutions.
Buenas tardes a todos. ¿Cómo están?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Bien. Bien. Una sola palabra, España siempre.
Spain always.
Bueno, yo soy italiana.
I am Italian.
Voy a tener el placer de hablar en tres idiomas. Voy a hablar italiano.
I am going to have the pleasure of speaking in 3 languages: Italian, Spanish, and a little bit in English. Because tourism is also dialogue, is understanding, it's a cultural exchange, and here we are.
I would like to start with you, Andre. The rules of engagement that I would like to lay down is that I would like to call you by name. I know you are an ambassador, you're a former perm rep of Poland in Brussels, but if you allow me, I would like to call you by name. Anche tu, Gianluca, e Patricia. Andrei, we have a very important thematic to address, and it's about our Christian Judaic traditions, is about the essence of Europe, and it is about tourism, because the first form of tourism was mainly pilgrimage. And in Europe, religious tourism has always been the key drive. So you being a Prem Rep in Brussels, you still living in Brussels, you believing in your role to change Europe, how does your experience as ambassador engage with actually preserving these values? How did you use the Judaic Christian landmarks in your work?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Alexandra, for this question. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for hosting this great event in the wonderful city of Madrid. I would like to congratulate you of organizing this great event. Alessandra, indeed, I'm representing a specific experience with this last 6 years in Brussels at the Council, and you have mentioned something which is common for all of us. In this moment, I would like to refer to the message presented by Ms. Adela Mirza at the previous panel about respecting these common values. Frankly speaking, what we are discussing now is a part of the public diplomacy, and EU member states are using those instruments, especially during the rotating presidencies. So every 6 months, each EU member state is organizing events. It was also the case last year in Spain, in the second part of the year. And there were several meetings hosted by the Spanish government. And I would like to refer to one of them organized in Toledo, and where during the Foreign Affairs Council, in the format of, with the participation of the Ministers of Defense, High Representative of the EU, Mr. Borrell, representing completely different political family, he's socialist, was presenting the Cathedral of Santa Maria of Toledo, was discussing with the Monsignor Dean of the Cathedral. So I think that those roots, those common values, are recognized by everyone, not only by us. So I think that at this moment it will be my first message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Gianluca, tu sei deputato del Parlamento italiano, ma sei anche il responsabile del turismo per Fratelli d'Italia.
You are responsible for tourism in Brothers of Italy.
Oltretutto un'esperienza molto importante nell'aver disegnato
you have extensive experience since you have designed routes towards the future of tourism. Religious tourism is probably very important in Italy. But what are the challenges and what are the opportunities, especially with the jubilees? Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you, Vox. Tourism is the drive for many, the main driver of many economies. In Italy, we have a lot to do. We have 20 regions working on tourism, so it's a complex system. we must think of now and think of the future. Great tourist destinations like Spain or Italy, it's important within Europe. We offer lots of culture, elements of cultural interest, gastronomic interest, etc. When Giorgia Meloni arrived in government, this political change was initiated and we are now at the beginning of a road that will take us far from an economic point of view. Religious tourism in Spain, Italy, everywhere generates 13% of GDP in Italy and 2% religious tourism, 30% tourism in general. We have a huge amount of monuments. We have the Vatican, a large amount of beautiful areas of touristic interest. At European level, I want to say something. We often talk about a Europe without Christian roots. I think Europe, as a community, grows before the birth of Christ, but Christianism has been key in the development of the European community, and we have to defend those values and that identity. It is a huge incentive for Europe. I studied in a public school. There was a cross in the classroom. There was a cross in the corridor. In the afternoon, we would go to the church. Not necessarily to the oratory, not only to pray, but to share our lives, to play. And churches will would allow us to use their space to help us promote our values and our identity. In Europe, in Santiago de Compostela, for example, in Spain we have Santiago de Compostela. In France, we have Lourdes. There's long-forgotten religious roots. For example, no one knows the Lauretana way, which links Loreto, where the Virgin Mary is, to Assisi, where Saint Francis of Assisi was from. That is a route hardly anyone knows. And in our country, for example, we have Saint Benito. He spent some of his life in our land. So religious tourism is a very important driver for our economies. We have to preserve it. Next year, we have the Jubilee, which will attract tourists and pilgrims. And I differentiate between them because many of the tourists who will come to visit St. Peter's and the Vatican will stay in Italy for a few days, and they will leave their pilgrim side behind, and they'll become regular tourists. Where years ago, pilgrims wouldn't spend much in the countries they go to. Nowadays, they do, because they spend a few days in our territory. And I think that's something we must maximize in Europe. We should protect this. And we also go to Mass very often. Okay, the cross, for me, it's a fundamental aspect of my identity. Patricia? 85 million tourists, foreign tourists arrived in 2023 here, more than in 2019. You're from Malaga. You're a member of parliament from Malaga. In Malaga, you have a lot of tourism, probably too much. How do you think we can change the model so that we don't go beyond what we have, so we won't go back to a situation where the locals are so fed up and so tired of having tourists around? And is this really a problem in Malaga? And a second question, this is for the second round of questions, but I start with you. I was considering your job, your position. Perhaps these situations, like the situation in Malaga, how does that impact religious tourism?
Primero, por favor, it's an honor for me to be here with all of you this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Madrid, welcome to Spain, welcome to Europa VIVA 24. It is a great meeting of patriotics. It's okay. And the rest of my speech will be in Spanish. Y antes de responder a tus preguntas, permíteme por favor.
And to answer your question, please let me salute many of our friends and families here, people coming from all the corners in Spain, members of Parliament, Ricardo Chamorro, and many good patriots who are here with us today, listening to something that might be uninteresting for some, but which is interesting. And let me congratulate the organization for all the round tables, but especially for including tourism and related to Christian heritage in this meeting of patriots. Regarding your question of this massive tourism, it is true that it applies to Malaga, south of Spain, and that is why we start listening to voices against tourism, and that is due to a lack of planning. As if we want to see this from a positive perspective, we need to be aware that tourism equals wealth and richness. In Spain, it's 30% of contribution to GDP. We're talking about many jobs, and tourism is not just the hotel. It's a taxi driver, the bus driver, the hotel owner, the travel agency, and many freelancers who find in tourism their daily bread. I come from the tourism sector, and I see it in a positive way. It would seem that the left, and the most radical left, is placing us against tourism. We have a Spanish government which attacks liberties, tramples on the rule of law and the constitution, and some members of the government, the communists, talk about the very low added value of tourism in Spain, a country where we receive more than 80 million people. What is the image we are sending across? We must look at opportunities coming from tourism. It fixes population in regions and helps to populate the depopulated Spain, attracting young people from all over Spain. And we have a government talking about tourism phobia. The solution is not to be against the tourism industry, but rather redistribute the flows. There are some destinations that some tourists only go to the city centers. But for example, other countries are deviating the experience to other touristic hot points so that it doesn't go through the city center always. As for the tourism tax, it is true that the People's Party and the Socialist Party in Spain are talking about this tourism tax. Again, what is the image that we are sending across when we want to burden people with further taxes? And we're talking about those who visit us from within Spain and those coming from abroad. The idea is not to demonize a sector that is key for Spain, Italy, Poland, but rather to preserve this industry which allows us to keep our heritage, our architectural heritage, artistic heritage, our cultural heritage, the legacy of our ancestors is something that we need to leave for future generations. We saw images of Fontana di Trevi, but you talk of the Vatican City. We could also talk about Padua, and in Poland we could be talking about the Jewish quarter, and we were talking about the Judeo-Christian landmarks. And there are different models for tourism, and there are common sense measures that can make tourism still positive and not negative, which is what is spearheading the most radical left. They want us poor, dependent, with no heritage and no Judeo-Christian roots. Thank you very much, Patricia. Gianluca, Patricia talked about a concept that I am interested in, and I got to know in Spain. That is the issue of Spain welcoming tourists just in some places and not taking them to rural areas. This is a problem that Brothers of Italy has tackled head-on from the very beginning, trying to create products for people, to bring people outside of the big cities. Do you think this is the right model for rural tourism as an additional form of tourism? Yes, I think this is an issue that many countries face. Tourists coming from Japan, US, they want to see Rome. They want to see the Uffizi, Firenze, Capri, Positano, the big centers, the big touristic hotspots. So we started working on a decentralization policy so that we can take tourists elsewhere, so that they can stay overnight in some other places, maybe by fostering, visiting smaller cities. Then COVID struck, and we drew one lesson. That was going back to experiential tourism. So many started using a different tourism model. And from what I see as first entrepreneur and second politician, I think there's pre-COVID and post-COVID tourism. The way of staying has changed, and also the will to live an experience, as many people prefer to be outside of big cities, which tend to be chaotic with a lot of traffic. So they go to big cities and then they go back to rural areas, and this must be founded. We have many villages in Italy which unfortunately have been abandoned, but in 2024 we've tried to promote this in Argentina. Is the year of the tourism of roots. We're trying to promote our beautiful country in those countries where we have great Italian communities: Canada, US, Brazil, Argentina, as they can be the soul to revitalize all these villages and areas in the inland of the country. And many are visiting again these small villages where their grandparents came from. So it's a type of tourism that is contributing with further revenue, and I think this is the first year of such tourism. and it can be a winning form of tourism for countries such as Spain, which is also very beautiful and has many Spaniards across the globe. I'm not talking about diaspora and migration. I am talking about second-generation tourism with identity, with values. I visited Canada a few days ago, and there were third-generation guys saying, look, we don't speak Italian, but we feel Italian, we have Italian blood. This is for them as well. Thank you very much. Andrei.
The importance of roots. And here we are actually discussing about our roots, our traditions, our Christian roots. In your vision, how important the recognition and the value of our roots is to enhance the cultural dialogue with other people and mainly reach a better state for achieving peace, for example?
This is something which is absolutely fundamental, and I'm expressing this opinion from the perspective of a diplomat, also from the perspective of a lawyer. This is one of the tasks, for example, of the European Parliament, to prepare the legislation, so to address issues, to find the solutions to the problems. We need to have this common understanding of from which direction we came, where are the roots, where is the cultural heritage, where are the fundamental values for us. So this would be my answer.
So I'm going to continue with you for the last question, just a few seconds each of you. 9th of June is a very important day. What are you asking the next European Parliament to do for tourism?
My message to the colleagues responsible for the new legislation is that the future is in your hands. You are responsible for the future. You have tools, you have instruments, you have procedures. And this is why you cannot forget about the past. You cannot forget about the common denominator of cultural European Christian values. You cannot forget about our roots.
Thank you very much. So not forgetting our Christian values. Patricia, ¿qué vas a pedir al Parlamento Europeo por el turismo?
What are you asking from the EP? Rather than the EP, I'm requesting this from Spaniards and Europeans. It is high time that we reflect, that we choose the best option. And the best option is that of political groups which advocate for freedom, sovereignty, the interests of their own, and who do not bend down to the interest of what we call the globalists' elites, to politicians. We are held accountable, but I place a mirror, and I ask them to be accountable. As June 9 is a day of very important elections for Spain and other nations which have bent down to the imposition of the Agenda 2030, which has severely punished the primary sector, which you will agree with us, you share this concern. It is the moment to vote well. And as for tourism, we're talking about tourism and all the productive activities. We need to simplify the regulations, to harmonize rules, to make life easier for everyone. There is excessive European regulation. There's a Green Deal that, even with the taxes on plastics, is damaging directly all these sectors. And it is the moment to place at the center of Europe families and to really advocate for prosperity of the Spanish people, of the Italian people, and other peoples. So it is possible to have a new model of Europe with sovereign nations, and the moment is now or never. Now is the time for patriots. And we see this movement. Now Madrid is the hotspot. The world is watching what we are doing here in Madrid. We are talking about national and international leaders. Madrid represents today a moment, a movement of European patriots who fight steadfast with conviction for freedom and sovereignty for the nations. And that is why we are together here today. Thank you. Thank you. And with many young people, I must add, very kind, always with a smile on their faces. I think this is very important. Gianluca, we close with you. What can this Europe do for you, for tourism? On June 9, you need to go and vote. Vote for Vox, Brothers of Italy, our dear ECR friends, for many reasons. One, voting in June means changing Europe. A Europe which wants to impose the requirements and to sell our beaches to international companies. And this is something that Giorgia Meloni is trying to protect in Italy. We need to fight to make sure that Italy does not impose laws on touristic guides, the touristic model, which is far from how we think. We need to vote, as I don't want Europe to impose on us what we need to eat. Italian products must be protected from aggressions coming from other countries. And I am sure we won't eat artificial meat in Italy. We voted, and we are not eating artificial meat. We are not eating insects. We are not eating all that food, as I am very proud to have a fat belly thanks to my pizza, my pasta, my fish. So I defend my products.
Grazie mille. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much. Bene, consideriamo concluso questo panel e prima di alzarci permettete anche a me
we call close this panel. Before we stand up, let me thank Antonio Giordano from the ECR, Santiago Abascal, Jorge Buxade. Thank you.
Grazie Alessandra. Grazie Ambasciatore Sados. Grazie Gianluca Caramanna.
Thank you to Ambassador Sados. Thank you Gianluca Caramanna, and thank you Patricia Rueda.
Thank you so much. Bravissimo, bravissimo. E quindi abbiamo il nostro successivo panel, controlliamo, credo che manchi una poltroncina.
That is,
Pronti?
Let me double check. I think we are missing one chair. Are we all ready?
Bene, sta arrivando anche
we
una
have
poltrona.
One chair missing.
È il bello della diretta. E allora,
it is coming.
chiederei intanto
That is the beauty of live events. So let me invite Elisabetta Migliorelli, journalist and TV anchor in Italian TV.
La prima, direi, la prima sedia bianca lì.
Grazie.
E ancora Pavel Zacek, membro del Parlamento della Repubblica Ceca.
Pavel Zacek, member of Parliament in the Czech Republic.
Lord Callanan, sottosegretario di Stato per l'energia del Conservative Party dei nostri fratelli di United Kingdom.
From the Conservative Party of the UK. Marta Schifone.
Member of the Parliament in Italy. Thank you, Marta. And Aurelius Veriga.
Benvenuta.
Member of the Parliament in Lithuania.
Aurelius Veriga, Member of Parliament in Lithuania.
Our video. Are we ready with the video? Hello, on the other side.
The beginning of a new era. A digital renaissance fueled by algorithms, neural networks, and the inexorable march of artificial intelligence. The implications of AI on our societies, economies, and individual lives are profound and require our careful consideration. However, amidst the uncertainty, we are presented with unparalleled opportunities for growth, prosperity, and advancement. As conservatives, we uphold values that transcend algorithms: fairness, transparency, and accountability. We must use AI with wisdom, ensuring that it serves humanity rather than subjugating it. Our goal should be progress for the people, enhancing our lives while preserving our values and freedoms. Conservative values, pragmatic solutions.
Grazie a tutti di essere qui. Io parlerò in italiano per questo
Thanks
panel.
very much, everyone. I will speak in Italian. Thank you to all the guests and all the moderators who have led the panel so well. I will call you by your first name: Marta Schifone, Pavel Zasek, from the Czech Republic, Aurelius Veriga, MP from Lithuania, Marta, MP from Italy, and Lord Martin Callaghan from the UK. We will talk about artificial intelligence, which transforms our societies. We need to adapt and improve, or we'll stay behind. A very important topic nowadays. We talk about this a lot. Students do, governments do. Very few people really know the topic. Our guests all know this topic. Many of them work every day with artificial intelligence. Others have worked on the laws that regulate artificial intelligence. I would like to start with Marta Schifone. What is the situation now? Are we ready for this challenge? Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here today in order to share the contribution of the Italian government, the Italian majority. We have worked a lot on this issue, and we live in a time which we call the fourth revolution. The digital revolution is we're going through a transition. We're going through a digital and technological transition. And the impact is very important, especially as regards the labor market. All revolutions lead to the destruction to some jobs and the creation of other jobs. Governments, society, institutions, associations, university, culture, public opinion, all of them need to find the balance, and we must help them. So we're going through a technological transformation, and within a few years, a few months, not even years, in a few months, we will have some professions that we don't even know about. They don't even exist now. Some of those companies are starting to move down that route. It is clear that all the organizations, all the companies must have a clear focus on this trend. They have to have a clear view of the future. They must be open to new technologies, but with measure. We have to assess what we have in front of us. We have to assess the risks and the opportunities. Those who make decisions, who design laws, can't bring in exact laws or exact rules because the change is so fast. The impact changes so fast. So we have two guidelines. One of them, we can't move away from the anthropocentric position. Man must be at the center. The person must be at the center, not the machine. The machine must never substitute man. We have to find balance between ethics and algorithm. We have to bring this to the world of algorithms, that concept. And the other thing is governance. We have seen how quickly these new technologies will have an impact in jobs. There must be a global governance to create uniform laws and sanctions in a joint way in order to control this situation. We were talking about the great opportunities that artificial intelligence has to offer in many sectors. But of course, there are also risks. That's precisely why we need regulations which are precise. What are the risks that we are facing right now, immediately?
An invitation that we are personally here, especially we in this our panel, and not our AI copies. I'm really glad to be here in Madrid and to talk to you personally. What can I tell you? There will be huge challenge for democratic politics. We will be under pressure of AI in the field of political communication, democratic procedure such as elections. That's one point. The other point, as you mentioned, I am focusing on this very special modernity phenomenon from the point of view of security, not just personal security, but national security, defense industry. As we know, Europe has a special point of view, regulate, and we have to be sure that not over-regulate in this specific field, because the enemies of our liberal, conservative world, authoritarian regimes, totalitarian regimes such as Russian Federation, Iran, North Korea, Communist China, will not accept this kind of regulation, and they will use AI like special weapons against us. So we have to be really keep control over these procedures, to understand, to study, and to try to develop.
E come possiamo attuare questo controllo? Abbiamo gli strumenti?
¿Cómo podemos actuar para? Tenemos las herramientas. Do we have the tools for this? How can we control this?
Which was amended in EU Parliament, which tried to open this problem for whole public, for especially EU public, but of course EU parliamentaries, they wanted to influence even other world players, such as on one side our partner in the US, on the other side Russian and Chinese especially. and we want to keep it under control. We will see if it will work, but we have to to keep open eyes and to support the study of these processes and to support especially security and defense industry to develop, to react on these processes.
Thank you, thank you. Lord Callanan, come l'intelligenza artificiale influisce nel sistema dell'energia?
How can artificial intelligence, what role does it have in the energy system?
Well, thank you very much indeed. It's a great pleasure to be here, and you've posed an extremely good and interesting question on the impact of artificial intelligence, and I think the title of this session is accurate in terms of it's something that we can't ignore. We need to control it, but the benefits that artificial intelligence can bring are immense, and the opportunities in the energy sector are incredible as well. Because we're moving away now from a time where power systems were actually quite simple. You had a large node, a large power station. Going out from that node were lots of cables. They arrived at your home. The power was there, you measured it, and you paid for it. Now, of course, we're moving away to a much more distributed energy system, an energy system where power is generated from hundreds of different sources, whether they be solar panels, whether they be windmills, whether they be nuclear power station, but hundreds more interconnected sources. Also, of course, many users themselves are generating their own power. You're generating it from sometimes a small windmill, sometimes a solar panel on your roof, and you get many more opportunities in Southern Europe, of course, than we will in the UK, in Northern Europe. But nevertheless, solar power is now the cheapest form of power. However, it suffers from one inherent fault, that it is intermittent. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know when you're going to get it. You don't know what quantity of power you're going to get. So managing that distributed energy system in a way that everybody can benefit, in a way that you can try to predict the quantity of available power, you can try to manage the load. So, for example, in the United Kingdom, we're moving away from a system of energy meters where it just meters the quantity of electricity that you receive, and then you pay a bill based on what that meter says, to a system of smart meters. So those meters will measure automatically what power you're using, but they will measure it every half an hour. And they will also measure if you are able to transmit power back into the grid as well. And the power system company needs to know what power is coming from you at any particular time. And then, of course, you can get into what we call time of use tariffs. So in other words, in some renewable energy systems, so take for example in the United Kingdom, we are an island, we have lots of offshore wind. It is windy in the North Sea, so we're putting in lots of renewable wind generation. So you get times of the day, say maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when it's blowing a gale in the North Sea, when we have huge amounts of power. The problem with electricity, the problem with power, is that it's very difficult to store. So ideally, you need to use it at the first opportunity you get. So if your system is intelligent, if it's governed by artificial intelligence, if it can predict when that power might be available, then what you can do is you can send a signal to all the meters, the thousands, the hundreds of thousands, millions of meters across the country, that at this precise point, say in the middle of the night, power is very cheap. We have large amounts of it available. So if you have an electric car, now is the time to charge it. If you have your washing machine set automatically, now is the time to run it. And you can, of course, adjust the price signal. So you can say that if you take power during these periods, it's very cheap. And therefore, artificial intelligence gives you the power with all of those data points, with all of that massive amount of information coming in to help to manage the system.
Grazie. Mr. Veriga, con lei affrontiamo un altro tema che è quello della medicina, del benessere e della salute.
Mr. Riga, we were talking about health and well-being. From the point of view of drugs and health, artificial intelligence has already done a lot, and there's much to be done. So what can we expect? What are the possibilities, the opportunities of artificial intelligence in this area? Will it help with precision surgeries? Will it help to make diagnosis faster?
That included this topic into the panel discussion. I think it's very important for our political community to understand both risks and benefits that we can get from the artificial intelligence. And I would like to name at the beginning some risks that are coming. My colleagues already named some, but this is just a tool. It's just a technology, and it could be used in both sides. You know, it's like in a medicine. You can take the medication that can treat the disease, but with the same medication you can kill the person, you can poison the person. So the AI, it's exactly the same. For us, for the politicians, it's very important to understand how powerful it is. For example, our colleagues were they had discussions how they are named in the public, in the society, far right, radicalists, and so on. So our children already asking ChatGPT some questions, you know, and they can ask questions about the political party. You can imagine what answers they can get. So it's very important who is behind the artificial intelligence, where it learns from, what answers our children will get from the artificial intelligence. So therefore we need a regulation, the very precise regulation, because who is behind, they can manipulate, they can use, you know, the social engineering for some areas, also for the politics. Going to the medicine, there are already innovations that can save lives. For example, there are already technologies and programs that can analyze X-rays, computer tomography, MRI scannings, and twice more precisely than human being could analyze those images, and twice more precisely can diagnose, for example, lung cancer, tuberculosis. It will never become a tyrant, will need no vacation, will need no glasses as human beings need, you know, because we are losing our vision when we become older, so we lose sharpness in a diagnostic. So this is a huge opportunity for the medicine to use this technology. It's already used. But again, with this, some ethical issues will come. For example, if we use this technology just to train the artificial intelligence, we can discover that some diseases were not diagnosed afterwards, and the human being is alive. Who will be responsible for undiagnosed diseases? So there are many, many questions, and therefore we will need many, many discussions on that.
E c'è anche il problema della responsabilità dei...
So the responsibility, who will be responsible for the final decision? And again, as everywhere, the human being should be finally responsible for the decision. The artificial intelligence can only help a human being in a diagnostics, in a treatment, can, you know, give you some advices how you should behave as a medical professional, but finally the human being should be responsible, not the machine, because the machine is just learning from what is already created by the human beings.
Grazie. È importantissimo appunto che sia sempre l'uomo a riuscire a governare la macchina. Nella medicina, nel suo settore, nella medicina,
It's important that
nella
it's always
sanità,
men
è
that
così?
govern machine.
Sarà così?
In your sector, is it the
Possiamo
case? Will
essere
it be the
ottimisti?
case? Can we be optimistic?
Now, which is the situation in medicine? Women can govern AI?
Well, it's just the beginning of use of the AI, and in fact, the human beings they rule the AI for sure. But you know, there are many things that are very, very dangerous, like decisions. You know, that some countries allow people to end their own life with the support, so they call it. There are even machines that that are proposed to create the capsules for euthanasia. So they are run by some artificial intelligence who is giving questions to the person. Are you really willing to die? Are you really understanding what you are trying to do? So finally, we can come to the point that machines will decide, there will be a final decision in the countries that are allowing these type of procedures. And that would be a very big dilemma, not just an ethical dilemma, but it's also a very legal dilemma if it's not, you know, the homicide that made by the machine.
Thank you, grazie. Marta Schifone, proprio per arrivare a tutto questo c'è bisogno naturalmente di competenze, è un tema anche educativo.
To reach all this, we need competencies.
C'è bisogno di nuove materie,
We are talking about education, schools.
per questi temi, è così?
We need further controls on powers and competencies. Yes, as I was saying before, there are risks and opportunities. It is difficult to put a perimeter around this, but we can be ready for all of this with a response, and that is competencies. There are many competencies. We have a first global cross-cutting level that is about what would be the digital literacy. I think in Italy there's a wide gap, and we need to work really hard on this, to work on infrastructures which are digital and which will help with this. We need to work intensively in other areas, in the present and in the future, in training and orientation. We need training in the labor market with human resources, and there we need to do upskilling, reskilling, continuous training. And then we have the other level, representing the future, that is our young people. And we need to orient them, advise them. We are talking about the STEM sector, science, technology, engineering, maths, which I think these are the disciplines of the future, as the technical and scientific sector will allow us to work on this front and be ready to tackle the challenges. STEM is quite unknown sector by the public, but well known by the universities and the education system, but also by the main actors, as companies want these competencies. They are eager to recruit these job profiles. And it's important that decision makers, but not just them, As you need a wide spectrum, you need to communicate this and to talk about all the big opportunities in the job market that these worlds or these disciplines provide for in terms of jobs and income. So we are making questions, but I think we have an answer. Knowledge is the answer to everything. How important is it from this perspective to fight against red tape, slowing this process of growth? Yes, of course, but red tape, bureaucracy, can be simplified also with digital skills. So if we acquire these skills, this is something that we've mentioned in our laws, in some legal actions, and President Meloni in Italy, after the Congress, well, there was a discussion of a document for all states, and it was said that in the G7 meeting, this would be discussed. That is, regulations for anything that is AI related, and how this would impact the field of work. And then in Italy, we have this bill that, in line with the AI Act, has provided some guidances. Thank you. It's also a hot-button topic that of investments. Is that true?
Sorry, the translation was coming through a bit slowly there. Yes, I absolutely agree. There will be huge amounts of investment required in all of these areas, and I think your earlier point about the importance of education as well, in training people for the new opportunities, because whilst obviously artificial intelligence will result in replacing some jobs, it will generate many others in the immense amount of uses that it will bring about, on the new opportunities that it will present, on the amount of money that it can save through more intelligent, in my case, energy systems. So if I can give you an example, Google did some work recently in terms of helping using artificial intelligence to predict what output they can get from their wind turbines. Now, the thing about, as I was mentioning earlier, about energy is that particularly renewable energies are very intermittent. You don't know when you are going to get them. So if you can put into the model the meteorological impacts, the meteorological model, and that will help you to predict what power you will get and when you will get it, that makes the value of that energy 20 to 30% more, because you can predict when you can sell it in the future. So you can say, I will have a definitive amount of power available tomorrow morning, for instance, using the artificial intelligence techniques, and then you can get more for that because you can predict when it will be available. So the opportunities that it will bring are tremendous.
Grazie. Grazie. Mr. Verriga, abbiamo detto tante opportunità, diversi rischi.
Now, Mr. Verriga, we've spoken about opportunities and risks. Now, what do we need to do to eliminate, to close the generational gap regarding AI? We are talking about young people spending many hours dealing with AI. using the online world, and their privacy is online. More than our generation. Can we help them, starting as of today?
Yes.
Sorry. Well, that's a huge question, because I can say I am from the generation which, especially during the communist era, before 1989, before the World Revolution, we didn't use any modern equipment, any modern technique. But what is very necessary and what focused on our past, and we didn't mention yet that problem, it's legal responsibility. There is many new ideas which influence young people, not just as young people, but we mentioned fields like medicine. I mentioned using AI like weapons, and we have to ask for legal responsibility, because we will. It will bring the huge confrontation between democratic legal state and all these questions when we give the responsibility somebody who is not legal entity, you know. So it becomes a huge problem, and we have to think about it. We have to speak about it, and I'm really glad that we open it for this public. But still, we don't know. We are in the beginning, you know. So you have a lot of questions, but we don't have yet answers on that.
Faccio l'ultima domanda, l'ultimo giro, però dobbiamo rispondere in maniera molto rapida.
Last question, but we need to be very brief. Will it be possible to provide the algorithm with ethics?
How we can control the algorithm? That's the question. I'm not sure that the regulation from EU level will finish. I mean, will finish the process. Will take care of responsibility. We are in the beginning, but we have to keep eyes on that problem.
Same question.
Of course, there are obvious ethical considerations to be taken into account when you're using automatic intelligence systems, and you can see that, for instance, in defense, when you've got a situation where computers, artificial intelligence, can make decisions on firing missiles, on firing torpedoes, etc. So essentially, they are able to kill. They are able to take someone's life. So the ethical considerations of who can program it, what will be the inputs into those systems, and the life or death scenarios that can result from it are extremely important. So it does offer us tremendous opportunities, but we do need to look at the ethical considerations, and we do need to put a framework of law around AI so it can be controlled properly.
Grazie. Marta Schifone, sarà possibile dare un'etica all'algoritmo?
Marta Schifone, will it be possible to provide ethics to algorithm? Yes, we need to control a series of activities: transparency, quality of data, responsibility, free will, and controlling the rule of law, inequalities, and helping avoid inequalities. If we do all that, we will provide ethics to algorithms.
Complicated question, because people create algorithms and people have their own ethics. They have their beliefs, they have their attitudes to some things, so they create algorithms. So I agree with the colleagues that it should be transparent. And in the same time, we have, again, to teach our children critical thinking, to teach them that you cannot trust everything that is written by the machine. even if it's taken, from the sources, digging from the digital data.
Thank you. Grazie. Grazie a tutti i miei ospiti, grazie a tutti voi. Grazie infinite. Grazie.
Thank you, everyone.
Grazie. Thank
you.
so much. Thank you so much.
Grazie, grazie. Grazie Pavel. Grazie Martin. Marta,
Thank
dove
you, Pavel.
scappi? Non
Thank
c'è
you,
chance, tu vieni qui.
Martin. Marta.
Grazie Marta. Grazie infinite,
Thank
grazie
you.
infinite. E allora ci
Thank you
prepariamo
ever so much. So let's get ready for the next round table. But before, let me tell you, let me ask you to see one application of AI.
differenti lingue e se parlo lentamente ancora più chiaro sono frutto dell'intelligenza artificiale. Quindi
And one of the application is not this live subtitling that we are seeing. The simultaneous translation is not a result of AI.
per altre lingue. E allora siamo pronti per il nostro prossimo panel. Simona Petrucci, è il tuo momento. Aspettiamo il microfono. Allora comincio a invitare le altre persone. Pedro Narro, you ready? Candidato per le elezioni europee di Vox.
Let me invite the members.
Pedro, the second, sì, la seconda. Gedrius Surplis, ogni volta lo sbaglio questo nome, ogni volta. Adesso mi aiuterai.
So we start with Pedro Narro, Gedrius Surplis.
Mio carissimo amico, membro del Parlamento della Lituania.
And my dear friend
dalla Bulgaria, ex ministro
of the Lithuanian Parliament.
dell'ambiente.
And then the former Bulgarian minister.
Candidata per le elezioni europee di Vox.
Then
Forza,
we
forza.
have Mireia Borras, candidate for the EU election and former member of parliament.
One chair is missed, one chair. One chair missing.
Vabbè, the problem.
Hello.
¿Qué tal?
One chair missing. Adesso quando funzionerà bene l'intelligenza artificiale il conto delle sedie lo facciamo
So when
fare
AI
all'intelligenza
works
artificiale.
well,
Allora intanto
it will bring chairs for us.
Simona, se tu puoi salire sul palco, Simona Petrucci, membro,
Simona Petrucci,
membro del Parlamento
she's a
italiano.
member
Benvenuta Simona.
of the Italian Senate. Welcome.
E anche il mio amico Rob
Simona,
Ross,
thank you.
da Netherlands, membro
And
del
Robert
Parlamento
Ross,
europeo,
my
che
dear
per
friend
qualche
from the
secondo
Netherlands,
da
member
bravo cavaliere
of
siediti,
European
Simona.
Parliament.
Rimarrà qui in piedi insieme a me.
Prenderà la mia sedia, lasciamolo nella mia
lasciamo
sedia
a lui,
mentre
ok.
io
Tu puoi
vado a
lavorare anche in piedi.
presentarmi.
Possiamo per favore far partire il video?
Play video, please.
Here we stand, in front of a pivotal moment in history, confronting the stark realities of climate change and environmental degradation. Conservatives have historically served both as the guardians of tradition and promoters of progress. We recognize that sustainability is not merely an objective, but a moral imperative. We also believe that we serve to safeguard and improve the livelihood of our farmers, entrepreneurs, and all European citizens. Only with conservative ideals can sustainability and energy policies become synonymous with more opportunities and prosperity for all European citizens. Conservative values, pragmatic solutions.
Perfetto, benvenuti a tutti a questo nuovo panel. Un panel dedicato alla sostenibilità,
This is the panel about sustainability. A different sustainability to the one we know up to now, to the one that the governors of Europe have imposed on us. A sustainability full of contradictions. We support a realist sustainability that tries to strike a balance between environment, economy, and man. There is no environmental sustainability if there's not economic sustainability. My name is Simona Petrucci. I'm a senator. I'm from the group Fratelli d'Italia, Brothers of Italy, like Giorgia Meloni. Big hand for our marvelous Georgia. And I've been working on energy and environmental policies for the last 15 years. I always strive to explain this concept. Sustainable development in a realist future is hard. Trying to explain what sustainable development means is difficult because it has been hijacked. The concept has been hijacked by the left. They try to talk only about the environment, but with little content. We want to give you concrete examples. We want to talk about concrete examples, things we can do in the near future as ECR. And that is what we will talk about in this panel. Thank you to the panelists. Let's greet Mr. Robert Ross. He is an MP in the Netherlands. He is a member of the Commission for Industry and Energy and the delegation for the Parliamentary Commission of Cooperation with Russia. Jedrzej Surplis, also an MP in Lithuania and the European Parliament since 2020, and former Minister of Culture, Pedro Narro. A big hand for him. He is running for European elections for Vox. And he has been working in Brussels for years. And then we have Mireia Borràs, also running for the European elections for Spain. She is already a Spanish MEP. And then Neno Dimov, former Minister for the Environment and founder of the Bulgarian Conservative Institute. A big hand for all of our guests. I hope you can maybe explain to us what sustainability means. And as ECR, how do we want to move sustainability forward? I will start with the person that's nearest to me. Robert, we know the great battles you have fought in the European Parliament. And the Green Deal, we know that you are a great enemy of it. Can we accept it as it is, as it has been designed, as such as it is presented to us?
Well, thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here with you. Yes, about the Green Deal. Sometimes I have the feeling that we are living on two different planets. Planet Earth, on which the people in our countries live and work, and on the other hand, the planet of the European Union and its decision-making based on fear-mongering. In the real world, on planet Earth, where our people live, there are more and more people who have difficulty making ends meet. Due to skyrocketing energy costs, inflation has increased. European businesses losing competitiveness. Many European businesses plan on closing down their companies or moving abroad outside the European Union. But on the planet of the European Union, we are all going to die if we don't give up our prosperity to change the weather. The same European Union that cannot even enforce its own rules for the last 25 years, such as the Stability and Growth Pact, but wants to make us believe that they can improve the weather 25 years from now. Net zero emission is a dangerous experiment with our economy and with our democracy. But the European Commission wants to risk giving up all of our prosperity and our way of life in the name of the climate. At some point, the planet of the European Union is going to crash, and lawmakers will have to come down to earth. They will have to face what they have demolished. I hope at that point it's not too late to save our prosperity and our way of life. The wonderful organization of this event asked me to propose tangible propositions and actions to take. Well, here's one. Get rid of the Green Deal. The Green Deal is the problem. Not part of it, all of it. Once the consequences of the EU's climate communism get clearer and clearer, once deindustrialization kicks in, the Green Deal is going to become massively unpopular. Rightly so. We need policies that serve the people. It means that we have to face the fact that energy independence is a matter of national security and that we must be self-reliant. It means we should make sure energy is affordable and reliable because businesses and households, they need it. It's the basis of our prosperity. It means we should invest in clean nuclear energy. In short, and then I finished, it means we should stop the EU climate communists now. Stop the Green Deal now and return to a common sense energy policy. Thank you.
Pienamente d'accordo, Robert. Come ho detto prima, il Green Deal è il figlio nato male di questa Europa.
I totally agree, Robert. This Green Deal has put at risk is even our competitiveness with other countries. Nowadays, Europe is not competitive compared to great states such as China, India, and the US. So how can we increase our competitiveness? Tedros?
Thank you. It's nice being here. And, you know, Lithuania was not on the list of the countries participating here on the screen, but we are very glad to be here. And as long as we heard a lot of Spanish and a lot of Italian today, I would like to teach you 5 Lithuanian words, okay? If you can repeat after me. So, labas.
Labas.
Means hola. Thank you means we say ačiū.
Ačiū.
Louder.
ACU.
ACU.
Europa.
Europa.
Patriotas.
Patriotas.
Energia. You see, we use quite similar words, and that is why my party, the Lithuanian Farmers and Greens, we are joining the ECR quite fast, quite soon. Now, coming back to the topic, yes, you probably know that the EU is at stagnating economic situation now. It's projected that the EU economy will grow by only 1%. Finland's economy is 0%. Germany's economy is at a stalemate. If we compare to the US and China, they are growing 5%. And you know, there is this saying that US innovates, China innovates, EU regulates. Well, I would say that when we speak of CO2 emissions, we could say that US and China emit and the EU is fighting it. And this is not right. If we look at the statistics of CO2 emissions, European Union as a region of 27 countries only accounts for 8% of the CO2 emissions in the world. The biggest loaf of the pie is due to the US and China. So when we speak of the Green Deal, when we speak of our competitiveness, we have to be less ideologic and more rational. Because, well, the US and China are taking over the EU companies. They are inviting the EU companies to invest in the US and China with great incentives. If we look at Biden's Anti-Inflation Act of 2022, well, it basically has no limits. So the EU companies, and I know Lithuanian companies who are prominent in solar energy, in other industry sectors, they are just offered money, millions of dollars, to bring their industry from Europe to the States. If we look at China, you know that Volvo is no more Swedish, actually. It belongs to the Chinese. You know that Chinese are investing a lot in, for example, solar battery factories in Hungary. So they are coming. And I'm not sure if we want it. You know, there was this saying all the time that we should be green, we should invest in green tech, you know, because we are the leaders. But we are, I'm afraid, not the leaders anymore, because the Chinese are producing all the solar panels, all the windmill equipment that we apply in the EU. So I would say, you know, now the European Parliament elections are coming and we are getting ready for the elections. We are speaking about being rational, protecting our own national security interests, and it's not only about energy. As my colleague here said, it's also about food, about agriculture. It's also a matter of our own national security. So if we are to be smart, we should offer no more taxes, no more regulations what regards the Green Deal. We should offer more incentives for the European companies to produce the green tech here. And I know that the European Parliament has just passed this Net Zero Act, which focuses that we should fund our own industry inside the EU. And I think this is the right way. We should apply more carrot to the European companies, to the European businesses, and more stick, sorry to say that, to the third countries. Because now we limit ourselves, limit our economy. We are basically digging under our own competitiveness, but at the same time we import the Chinese production, we import the food from other countries that are producing with very limited sustainability targets that we apply. So I think carrots to the Europeans, sticks to the third countries.
Complimenti, verissimo Gedrus. Il nostro problema importiamo dalla Cina per poi rimandare a fine vita.
Congratulations for that intervention. We do buy from China, and then we send the products at the end of its shelf life of its use life to China so that they can reuse it. So zero net emissions. We've been talking about that, about the fear that emissions may damage European economy, but not other parts of the world, the economy from other parts of the world. Mireia, in order to apply this legislation about the reduction of CO2, what consequences have for other companies? It is a pleasure to be here talking about such important topics for our country and for Europe. The reduction of emissions contemplated in the Green Deal have devastating effects in the industry in our country and the rest of Europe. The primary sector, the farmers, the livestock farmers, and also it has a very bad impact on our food sovereignty and our industry. Because we're trying to reduce emissions, but also because there are other environmental impositions such as taxes, competitiveness, etc. So it means that companies cannot carry out their work and be competitive. So the policies to reduce emissions are being implemented in a very aggressive manner and very fast. So for many companies, it is impossible to reach those objectives. Those objectives imposed on them by the bureaucrats in Europe. So this is causing the closure of many industries in different sectors, metal sector, metallurgical sector, cement, etc., but also the relocation into other countries, where paradoxically more CO2 is being emitted than in Europe. They produce more emissions. So China, where most companies move to, they produce 20 to 28% of global emissions. Spain, Spanish emissions, what would you think, is 0.7% of global emissions of CO2. So imagine how incoherent and the level of hypocrisy in this environmental policy. They're killing our industry with the excuse of reducing emissions, and what they are doing is quite the opposite. There are companies you probably all know, such as Alcoa, Cemex, etc., and the automotive industry, which, as you know, is a great pillar of our economy, is 10% of our GDP, and it is being absolutely annihilated by these climate policies, which are totalitarian. Of course, it is very important to support new technologies, clean, disruptive technologies, which will allow us to increase our competitiveness. But the priority must always be to be competitive, rather than having climate objectives which make no sense. And actually, they achieve the opposite that they intend, from what they tend to achieve. They actually increase CO2 emissions at a global level. So this is a global problem, as you know. There's no use in saying that we're reducing our emissions in Europe if we are helping increase emissions elsewhere. It's shooting your own foot. It is destroying our productive fabric. It's destroying our network of factories. It is destroying the prosperity of our families. So we want to bring common sense back to the European Parliament. We want to bring back prosperity and competitiveness. They must be at the center of the debate. And that is what we're going to do. We're going to stop these barbarian attempts, our primary sector who feed us every day, we have to protect them. This is what we're going to do from the 10th of June in the European Parliament. We're going to start fighting and defending common sense and prosperity.
Absolutely. And on the 10th of June, we will speak a different language at the European Parliament. Pedro, Mireia was talking about how absurd it was, this green transition and the objectives. Are they realistic? Are they applicable? Thank you. Thank you to this large crowd who is here with us in this beautiful afternoon in Madrid talking about sustainable development and green transition. Merit, all the credit goes to you. But let me tell you the truth, even though I think that you know the truth. I am asked whether the goals of decarbonization are realistic goals. What do you think I should answer? No, they are not. For three main reasons. Firstly, despite what we hear constantly from Brussels, these are not scientific goals, but political ones. Goals which become bigger through the pressure of the Greens and many other parties which are not called Greens, but which apply green policies. That is, the People's Parties and the Socialists. And with that ideological view, they are increasing their goals. So these goals of climate neutrality by 2050, with a reduction of emissions of CO2 of 50% by 2035. That is an important decision. We see the impact on our lives. That was passed in 2021. That was the Climate Act, which was presented with all the fanfare in Brussels. Do you know which Nobel laureate was Ursula von der Leyen accompanied with when presenting this law? Who was this Nobel laureate, this scientific? That was Greta Thunberg for you. She was the person sitting next to Ursula von der Leyen to present these climate goals. Greta Thunberg, environmentalist, now she's chained to Eurovision. So these are non-scientific goals, but we were not told the truth, the real impact of a series of decisions which are very important. We are talking about energy transition. Some months ago, 3 directives were passed in Brussels. 3 far-reaching directives. First, renewable energy directives, then efficiency energy directive, and then energy in buildings. But we were not told what this means in practical terms. The Energy Efficiency Act means that as an owner, if you want to rent out or sell your house, you need to do a great investment in a moment of crisis in order to meet those goals. Scientific, so they call them. Also, they are not realistic for a reason mentioned in the previous panel. They are not realistic as we are facing a tsunami of regulations, overlapping norms which contradict each other. It's impossible to make sense of them. I don't know if anyone in the room wants to develop a renewable energy project in the midterm to meet those goals. If there is someone here, make sure you read the directive of 2018. That is not being transposed fully. The update of the directive passed this year. Then the new ruling on the electric market, then the new ruling on energy efficiency. And when you think you understand everything, then you still have 600 delegated acts in the field of energy that Brussels will publish.
Verissimo, non riusciamo ad ottemperare ad una normativa che ne arriva subito un'altra.
Well, thank you very much.
Neno. Per quanto riguarda
We haven't quite applied a normative, and then we have another one. Then Neno, as for green transition, green energy, we've been spoken a great deal about this in Europe, but really, does it improve the environment?
Well, I would like to join all the thanks to the organizers, of course, and I will give a direct answer, which is no. And just to give you a bit more of information, I'm working in the field of environment since 1991, and I started exactly with the air pollution, so this is my field. And I have more than 33 years experience in this field, so I can say I'm a kind of an expert. If we have to fight with the truth. And we have to fight only with the truth, because being conservative, we believe the truth with the big T. And the truth is that the CO2 emissions has risen from 300 to 400 ppm for the last 100 years. Wow, it's 25%. But this is a manipulation, because it is really 25%, but ppm mean particle per million. And if we look on the global scale of the atmosphere, it's 0.01%. If it's 25, it can be dangerous. If it's 0.01, would one believe that it's dangerous? And I will give only one second example. I remember the first time when I heard about the global warming and the human guilt about this, the human activities, in early 1970s, almost 60 years ago. And there was a prophecy, and I heard a scientific guy who said, if I was to bet, I will bet that in the year 2000, in London, only the Big Ben will be on top of the water. I have been in London just a few months ago, and believe me, I was walking on the street, and I see all over the London like 60 years ago. This prophecy failed. But at year 2000, they said, wow, the next 20-25 years, the disaster's coming. Jesus, I don't believe I'm living in 2024 without a disaster yet. But now the disaster is coming in year 2050. And afterwards will be maybe 2075 if we don't get rid of this. So, this all failed, but the policy did not fail. They managed to put the Green Deal. And here comes the question, why? And this is the most important question. And I wouldn't agree with my colleague that the Green Deal is a problem. The Green Deal is a tool. We have much bigger problem. Green Deal is a tool to help, is based on new Marxist ideology. What the Marxism is fighting with democracy and with capitalism. What is the fundamental? What is the fundamental of democracy and capitalism? The middle class, the family business, the small, the medium business. How one can make this middle class disappear because this is the enemy of the Marxism? Make it poor, and we become poorer and poorer. A couple of years ago, I had a statistics which scared me. Having the three major European countries like Germany, France and England, after the Second World War, one can pay back his house with 15 years' salary. Europe was destroyed. My generation, the next one, could pay with 20 years. And our children's generation pay for 30 years, which means they are 2 times poorer than the generation after the Second World War due to the Green Deal and all the policies that led to the Green Deal. We should not get rid of the Green Deal. This is a war, and we should fight to keep our middle class and all that benefits from it. Because there is no democracy without middle class, there is no democracy without capitalism, there is no good life without capitalism. So my very direct answer is, green is like brown of Nazism and like red of the communism. So we should fight with it. Thank you.
Una perfetta definizione, Neno, ti ringrazio.
A perfect definition. Thank you very much.
Da questo secondo giro di domande vi chiedo di
I
essere
agree with
sintetici
you.
perché abbiamo pochissimo tempo.
On this
Però,
second
volevo
round, we
sapere,
need to be very brief, as we have very little time. But is there an alternative to green energy?
Of course there is an alternative. So if we look what is the green energy is unsustainable, unreliable and expensive. And the alternative is reliable, sustainable and cheap. This is very easy. So this doesn't mean that we have to be against the solar panels or the windmills. We just have to stop subsidizing one part of the energy and making penalties to the other one. Let them compete, and who's better, who's cheaper, who's sustainable to win, like in the capitalist world. Because the most important thing in the capitalism is that the one that you want to buy, you buy at the price you can afford to buy. So the competition is the most sustainable thing. And now what is doing the Commission? They take money from the coal factory, and give to the alternative, renewable energy. By the way, this is the way they stop the fastest development, because sometimes this renewable energy may be much more competitive than the coal energy, but not at the moment. And the only source that we have in Europe is coal. Of course, we also have some sun, especially in the south. In this world, which come to a deep crisis, this is a new transfer of the world rules now, we have to trust on our own sources to be sure that we are independent. We saw what happened with the gas the first year when the war in Ukraine started. We cannot rely that some people outside will be so happy to supply us with the energy we need. First of all, we have to have our own resources, and this is coal, this is nuclear, and maybe this is solar, and maybe this is wind, but maybe when they are enough competitive. Thank you.
Grazie, Neno, delle tue parole sagge.
Thank you.
Veramente sagge. Oggi davanti a questa bellissima.
Thank you for your words, for your wise words. Mireia, regarding the transition and what the future might look like when trying to diversify energy sources to create a real transition, is this possible? It seems that the app is not working. Our key word is energy sovereignty. We repeat this in the Spanish Parliament and in all our statements when talking about energy. It's an essential aspect where, again, the European Green Deal has failed. You know, Europe's dependence, energy dependence, is about 63% in Spain. We are also highly dependent, up to 70%. And therefore, we need to place at the center our energy sovereignty as a main factor to ensure that we are competitive and that the energy has affordable prices and that energy is safe. the current policies that we see and which are imposed by Brussels through the European Green Deal, and which fast-track the implementation of renewable energies, do not guarantee in any way that this energy transition will be developed in a safe and affordable way, as renewable energies, they help us diversify our energy mix and to keep advancing towards this very much needed energy sovereignty, thus reducing our dependency on external factors. These energies are needed in our energy mix, but we know that these energies are intermittent and are a huge challenge, as they only work when you have sun or wind. They are not constant as nuclear energy. And we still don't have large-scale storage capabilities so that they can replace other sources of energy. Also, we need to bear in mind that this imposition of renewable energies comes hand in hand with a new dependency. That is how they tell us that we will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. But yes, but to have another dependence, and that is changing one dependence for other, and that is being dependent on raw material and critical elements. We are talking about the need to have them to build panels. We're talking about cobalt, rare materials. So these raw materials, where are they? In China, Latin America, but also in Spain. But the issue is that ideology has already taken over. The laws which have been passed and implemented, such as the Climate Change Act, which has forbidden the exploitation and the exploration, that is research, of our own resources, which means that even though we might have critical raw materials to develop this energy transition with renewable energies, we cannot even extract them or use them, as it is forbidden by law to explore and exploit these resources that we have in our country, and that is a huge energy richness. In 2013, a study was carried out in Spain with the conclusion that in Spain we had up to 2,000 million barrels of petrol equivalent and many cubic meters of natural gas. We are talking about natural gas reserves for 70 years and oil for 20% of the oil reserve for the next 20 years. And again, it's a barbaric act that is forbidden by law. And this is part of the richness of all Spaniards. Let me conclude by saying that we advocate for anything that leads us to improve our energy sovereignty. We understand that all energies are therefore important, renewable energies, but also any other technologies, such as nuclear energy, that is being demonized by the socialist government, even though it doesn't issue any CO2 and amounts for 20% of our generation basis. Currently in the world, we have almost 400 nuclear reactors being built in more than 38 countries, and in Spain, we are thinking of dismantling these nuclear reactors. This is energy suicide. We can't afford that, as we are highly dependent on energies, and therefore I conclude. Thank you. Thank you. Robert, again, following your experience in the European Parliament, in technical terms, how can we build this green transition technically?
Well, I can be short on that. Well, the energy transition based on renewables, it's just not possible. It's an ideology, but if you look at the way you should look at it, with physics and mathematics, you can see it's not possible. And I couldn't agree more with my neighbor, Mr. Dimov. It's a Marxist agenda, and let me also explain my part of this. If we look at the energy transition, then we have climate policy, but people think this is good for the environment and good for the nature, but climate policy is very bad for environment and very bad for nature. If you see all the raw materials that we need to mine, the renewables have very low energy density. So that means that we need a lot of it. That means a lot of land space, a lot of raw materials, but also a lot of waste. And that is destroying nature, it's destroying biodiversity, it's destroying our seas. So it's not really helping the planet. And if we look from a distance to the Green Deal, then we see that it's destroying our energy system. In 2010, Europe was energy exporting. Now we depend completely on evil states. It's also destroying our food system, and the Commission told us, but it creates jobs. Yes, it does, but not in Europe. It creates jobs in China. So but we have a wonderful solution, and it's already mentioned, it's nuclear energy, but there is no level playing field for nuclear energy. And renewables are very favored, very subsidized, and that is really a big problem. There should be a level playing field for all, and let the market do its work. If we look at nuclear energy, it's high density, it's clean, it's safe, it's always available, and we cannot say that of renewable energy. And we don't have to change the grid so much as, let's say, decentralized energy production with wind turbines. So it has a lot of advantages. But why is the Commission not choosing for this option? And that's because it's a socialist agenda, and that's also what my neighbor already said. It's a socialist agenda, and that's why I called it climate communism. It's about degrowth. That is what they are aiming for. But, and I want to finish with it, times are changing. We see conservative governments are coming up all over the member states in Europe. We have European election in June next month. So it's time for change, and let's abolish this Marxist agenda, and let's move on to a realistic policy. Thank you.
Grazie. Ne siamo convinti, Robert. Ecco, Jedrius, abbiamo messo sul tavolo i problemi, le eventuali soluzioni. Ma come riusciamo a tornare competitivi verso quegli stati che abbiamo detto prima?
Again, compared to the different states we have mentioned, states which are our owners these days. How can we make Europe competitive again?
Thank you for the question. I think the key point here was already mentioned by my colleagues, is our own national interest. Because if we look at the energy sector now, well, Russia's war in Ukraine, aggression against Ukraine, it has not only shown how brutal the regime can be of Putin, but also how dependent on Russia's pipelines we are. And when we started, becoming more and more autonomous, we had these shocks in energy prices in Lithuania, in Bulgaria, everywhere. If you look at Iran, for example, which is also a regime, an authoritarian regime, which is causing some problems to us, which is selling Shahed drones to Russia to employ them in Ukraine, etc. it's also very heavily dependent on the crude energy resources. Now, the third pillar, if I may say, if we look at China now, it has overtaken us, as I mentioned, as we spoke here in this panel together with my colleagues. It has outrun us in the production of the wind and solar energy panels, all the other equipment. So what we have to do is, wash our heads, get rid of the ideological, things, and think for ourselves what is best for EU's interest, what is best for EU's energy sector. And yes, some countries are still dependent on their coal, some countries have their bigger or this small nuclear power plants. Let us have it as a discussion. And coming back to the Lithuanian language, I used to say that we have made a mistake in translation because we translated the Green Deal as the green course, žalesis kursas, which is like a vector, like an order for you to go there. We should get back to the deal thing. We have to rethink, rediscuss it with our sectors, with our farmers, and have it formed, focused, the way to be working on our account, on our use.
Acqua. Potete portare un bicchiere di acqua, grazie. Succede. Adesso non ti preoccupare.
Can someone bring him a glass of water, please? This can happen. So if someone can bring
sì, anche un bicchiere di vino, sì, non fa male.
They will
Sì,
do him a
vedo che c'è
favor. Oh, glass of
della
wine.
cerveza, della birra, se va bene
Or a
uguale.
beer.
No, ragazzi, non possiamo andare avanti, non voglio avere nessuno sulla coscienza, quindi speriamo sia acqua davvero e non vino, altrimenti.
Okay.
Perfetto.
So let's hope it's water rather than wine. Okay, perfect. So I wanted to thank the audience who are still here listening this conversation about this very technical and important topic. But this is key for the future of the next generations who have not been listened to.
Yeah, thank you. I'm fine.
Jedrus, if we can finish with you. You're better? Okay. Can you continue?
And lastly, coming back to the same, if we account for 8% of the CO2 emissions in the world only, then I think the EU Commission, who is not only the watcher of the treaties of the EU, but also the main negotiator on the WTO level, they should spare more energy to, fighting for the EU's interests and getting big guys like China, US, Brazil, India round the table to discuss these issues seriously. What we care for more in Europe is our environment. And you have forest fires in Spain, we have floods and droughts in Lithuania. We all experience that. We have smokes in the cities, not that much anymore. But this is our environment, and here we are accountable for it. We have our say, we can do things. So here we should focus and do more. But what regards the world play field, we should, spare more effort to demand from these guys to pollute less and to not dump their cheap, not sustainable production on the EU.
Grazie Jedrus, siamo tutti noi a favore dell'ambiente. Sfido chiunque qui a dire che non è a favore dell'ambiente, ma siamo contro quelle azioni, lo scellerato.
Thank you very much. We all support the environment, but we are against the actions of that, the evil of that imposed environmentalism in so many sectors which are key for the European economy, such as agriculture. Our agricultural sector is on its knees. Farmers are accused of polluting, of damaging the land. I read something which is very simple but very beautiful. There is no food without water and land. It impressed me because those few words shows the work carried out by our farmers. But did they know the Green Deal? Has anyone contacted them when it was being devised? No one asked them. Tomorrow morning, Milei will be here, and I want to say something. Any transition, and this green transition even more, needs dialogue with the agricultural sector. Instead of that, they got imposition, sanctions. Why? Because the primary sector is treated as an enemy. We have to consider as an ally in order to achieve those goals. My fellow panelists have highlighted the reality, a reality of being dependent as regards renewable energy, as regards raw materials. We depend on China. Drugs, also, we are very dependent as regards drugs from India, from the US. And imagine what the next dependence will be. Food dependent. We're going to be dependent from a food point of view. We will depend on Turkey, Morocco, Egypt, where the Green Deal and the green transition does not exist and is not expected to come around anytime soon.
Ma hai lanciato il giusto messaggio. Concludiamo qui questo panel.
Thank you. A great way to finish with a right message. So I close this panel. Thank you, everyone. Robert, Jedrius, Mireia, Neno, for having contributed to this sustainability discourse, always taking productivity and prosperity in mind, not like the European left has been doing. So from the 10th of June, things will change. Thank you, everyone.
Ancora grazie a Simona Petrucci.
Thank you, everyone. Simona Petrucci. And we will change the panelists. Thank you, Nemo. Thanks, everyone. Jedrius, thank you.
Are we ready for the video? Yes, next video, and we will have some people on the stage moving the chairs. Siamo? Eccoci. E allora siamo pronti a presentarvi il nostro manifesto per le elezioni europee. Abbiamo voluto sintetizzare i punti fondamentali sui quali tutti i conservatori d'Europa che aderiscono a ECR
So we're going
sono d'accordo.
to present to you the manifesto.
Qui sul palco il nostro vicepresidente, ma soprattutto mio
Everyone
amico
agrees on it. Our vice president and our friend Radoslav Fogel will introduce the first point of the manifesto.
Okay, is this working? I guess it is. Hello everyone. It's great to have you here. And without further delay, as Antonio announced, the first point of our ECR political manifesto for the upcoming European election. We start with the fundamental thing. The first point says preserving national identity, reforming the European Union, and safeguarding member states' sovereignty. This is the basic thing. Without national state, without sovereignty, we cannot have any sort of organization like European Union. And there is a threat. There is a threat currently. You know, all those ideas, changing the treaties, creating a European superstate, transferring more and more decision-making powers to Brussels, to European Committee. But we in ECR, we as conservatives and reformists, we believe in democracy. And there is no democracy without demos. It's the Greek word for society, for the people who take responsibility for their own countries. And there is no European demos. The demos and the democracy are within the national states. If there was a European demos, we would have a European team competing in the World Championships. But we have our national football teams. This is a proof that something like a European demos doesn't exist. And some may try to tell you that a national state, a sovereign state, is an outdated idea. Is it? Then why are thousands and tens of thousands of Ukrainian people fighting, bleeding, and dying to preserve their sovereign state? Maybe those Brussels bureaucrats should go to Ukraine and tell those people, tell those soldiers in the trenches that they are fighting for an outdated idea. Sovereign state and national member state is the cornerstone of our policy. We will preserve it, and we will put a stop to anyone trying to create a European superstate. This is the first point of our political manifesto. Thank you.
Grazie Radoslav. Bene, siamo pronti a guardare il contributo che ci ha mandato il vicepresidente.
So we are ready for what we have from the Vice President of the European Parliament, Robert Zile.
Across Europe, we all have shared different political and historical experiences and memories. But for us in the Central and Eastern Europe, and particularly in Baltic states, from our historical memories, it is crystal clear that the national sovereignty and security of our countries is a paramount value. There is nothing more important than security and preconditions for existence of our countries and then the entire European Union. Any other priorities can only be addressed afterwards, only when independence of our countries is ensured. Coming from Latvia myself, the Baltic countries have always experienced threats, their existence from regional neighboring powers. particularly, of course, Russia. Our territories have endured such a high level of force through the military aggression and invasion, through the Soviet occupation and repressions, and before from the Tsar time Russia. And the Soviet mass deportations saw hundreds of thousands of people taken to Siberia, making it harder for the future of generations to rebuild our countries. The memory of losing our countries and being incorporated in the Soviet Union is fresh for many people in the Baltic states and in Eastern Europe. And the ongoing war in Ukraine reminds us how very well these memories and the threats of Putin's Russia today poses to all of us. This is precisely why safeguarding our countries and our citizens in the current geopolitical climate is of the utmost importance. And it is one of the top priorities of ECR Party to ensure that the whole Europe is kept safe and defended. Europe must stand strong in the face of threat in united front, from Tallinn to Lisbon, from our eastern external borders till the North Atlantic Ocean, and hence of our incorporation of European Union in NATO transatlantic cooperation even more stronger. And it reminds me that this is not just war in Ukraine, it is war against Europe. We consider that the only continued transatlantic unity and the NATO remains a primary source and guarantee for security of Europe. While we must boost defense budgets, streamline investment in our defense infrastructure and manufacturing, and promote coordination between private and public defense investment. As ECR Party, we see no need to creation for European strong defense union or European armies, as in the long run it would only weaken and fragmented our armed forces, and in the short run it created damage in our eastern part of Europe. Or even it disorientated them. If we look, for example, how Macron does his political pirouettes. One day he pretending to the chief Hafk by speaking about sending troops, NATO troops, to Ukraine, and next day sending ambassador to Moscow to Putin's so-called inauguration. This is my main message about security for our ECR Party friends. Sometimes it looks differently from east of Europe than in the west of Europe, but we all have to share the same views, because without security is no other things so important in Europe.
Il prossimo video, Carlo Fidanza, membro del
So the
Parlamento
next
Europeo,
video
capo della delegazione di
is
Fratelli
from
d'Italia.
Carlo Fidanza, member of the European Parliament in Italy,
Amigos,
Brothers
queridos
of Italy.
patriotas, un saludo desde Italia. Los conservadores queremos situar la lucha contra la inmigración irregular y la defensa de nuestras fronteras en el centro de la agenda europea.
Borders are the very center of the European agenda. The new Italian government of Giorgia Meloni has worked on this issue from the very beginning, and after a few months have achieved important results. The model of Europe has failed. Open borders, indiscriminate immigration, the illusion of integration led to a real invasion that European institutions have not managed well, abandoning member states to their own luck and delivering our cities to degradation, insecurity, Islamization, and terrorism. We want to change deeply Europe. We always believe that migration is not just a national issue, but a European one, and must be tackled as such. Gone are the times where Europe could turn a blind eye. The times where the left felt licensed to distribute licenses of democracy to people like us who want a strong response and a common response about people trafficking. And the wind has changed thanks to Giorgia Meloni and all the conservative movements. European institutions finally understand and accepted what we always said: to stop the chaos of immigration We must stop the exits. And therefore, Europe needs to go back to the Mediterranean, involving the source and transit countries into a global fight system against people traffickers. This should go hand in hand with investment in Africa, cooperation, ensuring security and development. This is what happened with the agreement between Tunisia and the EU, desired by Meloni's Italy, which has reduced 82% of illegal exits into Italy, and the review of Tunisia of the detention of thousands of drug traffickers by Tunisia. And our government has come to an agreement with Albania to establish identification centers for immigrants where you can process asylum-seeking requests to alleviate the migration burden on our region, but also as a deterrent system that will be in place very soon, and living migrants will know that there's a high chance they won't reach Italy. The left Italy, the European Italy, has always opposed such solutions, trying to sabotage them. The European political axis has moved towards the left. But now we need to take a step forward to turn words into actions. The upcoming European elections will be crucial when talking about migration. We have the chance to leave behind the Europe of open borders, which are insecure, so that we have a Europe that can protect its borders and defend and to affirm with pride their own identity. This is a challenge that we need to win today. Tomorrow, it could be too late. Thank you, dear friends of Vox ECR, and have a nice day.
Grazie al mio amico Carlo Fidanza e ancora Pedro Narro.
Thank you very much to Carlo Fidanza, dear friend. Now we have Pedro Narro, Vox candidate for the European election.
Gracias. Hago doblete. Seguramente estemos en
Thank you.
la happy hour.
I'm here again. Probably it's happy hour for all of you. You are lucky to have me again. I am introducing the part of the manifesto of the primary sector in our ECR group. As you know, consensus of people's parties, the socialists, the liberals in Europe, translated into the Green Deal, and they promised our farmers that they would be happy. They ensured profitability. Only a few years have gone by, and now we know really what they meant. They turned Europe into a museum of agriculture. Our commercial partners laugh at us in our faces. We are talking about the Americans, the Moroccans, the Egyptians. They all always laugh at the way we are dismantling our agricultural sector. For the ECR Party, agriculture is the driving engine of rural areas, of our peoples, and we will defend that. We insist in something that is no minor issue, that all decisions about agriculture should be based on science, not on ideology, not on greenwashing either. Of course, we request a fair balance that was mentioned this afternoon. We need to protect the environment and also have social and economic aspirations. The ECR is firmly committed to reforming substantially the common agricultural policy and the idea of farm to fork. This might look simple, but we say, stop bureaucracy. We want our farmers to work, to produce food, and that they are not in the middle of the mud with red tape coming from the EU. We still advocate for food sovereignty, and a concept that is more important than ever, and we are requesting fair trade. The primary sector will have the ECR on their side as a reliable partner, a responsible partner, and a partner that is willing to contribute with solutions. The ECR will provide solutions, and it is the group that has the antidote for the Green Deal. Thank you very much.
E ora mandiamo in onda un messaggio del co-presidente di ECR, Nicola.
A message from the co-president of ECR, and that is our dear friend Nicola. Hi everyone, and thank you. I am sorry I couldn't be there. Let me contribute with my 2 pence on this Green Deal, which has been the political platform to influence the last European mandate. That was an ideological device of socialism, and in fact the promoters are the orphans of this ideology of the last century. That's an ideology that is all about hatred against the freedom of people to move, to create businesses, and also it's against the self-determination, because human beings are considered as harmful for nature, where the nature of human beings and nature are interconnected. So our approach to the green transition is entirely different. It's all about defending the principle whereby we can share an ambitious goal, but where nations are free to choose with which technology they will use, which is the most effective one for their own trades. This applies to the negation of the electric engine, and there's a great deal of people who live from nature, in nature, for many generations, and now they are facing an election. Unlike some people who only get to know nature once per year when they go on vacation, we defend the concept of ecology, but from our perspective, from our conservative perspective, it is very important to have an alliance between those who are here and those who will follow us. This is very important to fight against false environmentalists.
Grazie a Nicola che non è potuto essere qui. E ora
Thank you, Nicola, that couldn't be here on site. And now let me introduce a friend, a colleague, an Italian colleague, Marta Schifone.
Grazie a tutti. In questo punto vogliamo parlare del nostro
Thank you, everyone.
Il nostro obiettivo è puntare sulla competitività.
Let's talk about our goal, that is advocating for competitiveness, development and growth. We want to give free rein to the energy of SMEs, which were oppressed for a long time by a short-sighted politics and restrictive politics, and by wrong priorities, by red tape, which led to problems. So they fell into a stage, into a phase of degrowth, deindustrializing our continent. To all of them, to all of these we want to oppose with a platform that will work to simplify red tape and this is for our productive industries which create wealth. And for all the workers, which are our real resource, we will advocate and defend SMEs with specific actions, with specific interventions that will translate into legislative proposals. For example, suspending the norms of the EU. For example, implementing and revising digital infrastructures to support all the digital skills. I'm thinking of 5G, 6G, to foster all the investment for the future of our young people. We are thinking of tax sovereignty and promoting entrepreneurship so that every European citizen can be free and inspired to start a company with expansive politics that will lead to growth and development. Thank you very much.
Voice? Okay. Marko Vilanovic from Croatia.
Marko Vilano from
Marko is
Croatia.
Our director member of the board of ECR.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you with a vision for a Europe that is resilient, innovative and self-sufficient. The ECR Party's Manifesto, 7th point, energize and innovate, lighting the path to a resilient future, sets a bold course for our continent. It champions energy security, technological advancement and the sovereignty of our member states. In the annals of history, no one embodies the spirit of innovation and the power of energy quite like Croatia's Nikola Tesla. It was in the Croatian city of Šibenik that Tesla's revolutionary alternating current system first illuminated the streets, making it the world's first city to adopt such a comprehensive system of production, transmission and local distribution. This remarkable feat is not just a proud moment in Croatian and European history, but a beacon for what we can achieve when we harness the full potential of our ingenuity and resources. Our commitment to energy security is unapologetic. We strive to strengthen the autonomy of the European Union by focusing on robust logistics infrastructures, cutting-edge technologies, and secure supplies of energy and raw materials. This is about more than just energy. It is about reclaiming strategic productions of Europe, adhering to the principle of being open as possible and as closed as necessary. Each member state must retain the autonomy to determine its own energy mix. We firmly advocate for a technologically neutral approach, recognizing that solutions like nuclear energy, geothermal power are critical to maintaining our competitive edge. By embracing these technologies, we not only promote energy security and sustainability, but also position Europe as a global leader in innovation. Research and innovation are the twin engines driving our future. We are committed to making a strategic investment in top-tier transport infrastructure, ensuring that all regions of the European Union are interconnected. This enhanced connectivity will unlock unprecedented opportunities for growth and development, transforming Europe into a powerhouse of innovation. We will rally European research efforts, welcoming homegrown technologies into the common market with open arms. Our focus is on turning groundbreaking inventions into tangible European products and thriving companies. With us, there are no sunk costs, only a flourishing and innovative European budget that guarantees returns. Tesla's legacy teaches us that when we dare to innovate, we light the way of a brighter future. As we stand at its crossroads, let us draw inspiration from Šibenik's pioneering spirit and Tesla's genius. Together we can build a Europe that is resilient, where every nation's sovereignty is respected and where innovations drive us towards a future of unparalleled prosperity and security. Following the last panels we heard today here, I have to say, Croatia has fought a bloody war for its freedom. And in that war, we denounced Yugoslavia and the communist regime that led us into poverty. Today, Croatia does not want to be a part of Yugoslavia. We don't want to see 5-year plans in the European Union. We need to innovate, we need to be strategic, and we need to have our sovereignty. Thank you.
Marco, il mio amico Jürgen Jost, Federal Chairman del partito We Citizens in ECR dalla Germania.
Good evening to the European conservative family. Good evening to Madrid. I'm glad to be here, and thanks to the ECR Party team, thanks to Vox, thanks to Antonio for this great event. As conservatives, we are realists by definition and not ideology-driven dreamers as left and Greens are by nature. And therefore, we know that a market economy, competition, and free trade are the foundations of our prosperity. On the basis of our liberal conservative principles, we can develop a strong and realistic vision for our future. We see a future where the European Union thrives on free trade, propelling us into an unprecedented era of economic growth. Imagine a world where market-led prosperity, shattered trade barriers, and rock-solid agreements that uphold intellectual property, ethical labor, and sustainable standards are the norm. We will strive for mutually beneficial engagement based on rules to unleash our economic power and advocate for comprehensive trade relations with a wide range of partners, such as the United States, such as our friends at the United Kingdom, and we want to diversify these relations to reduce our over-dependencies and build a resilient supply chain mix while addressing unfair trade practices with finesse. We will prioritize de-risking and adopt a firm approach in our relationship with China. We also seek to reform the World Trade Organizations and foster dynamic partnerships with strategic allies. I mentioned already the United States and the United Kingdom, but I also want to mention Latin America and the Indo-Pacific region to propel global growth. My friends, we believe in free world trade and the global exchange of capital, goods, and services. If we follow these simple rules and enforce them, we will create the conditions for a great economic future, not only for the European Union, its member states and their citizens, but for the entire world. This is conservative politics that is good for the people, that is good for us all, for everyone here and everyone over the world. Europe and the world needs more conservative politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jürgen. And Robert Ross again, my friend, member of the European Parliament, Netherlands.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will discuss here the main elements of the ECR's views on the EU budget. We have seen that the European Commission and large parts of the European Parliament never have enough budget. They always want to spend more and more money. With this money, they finance pro-EU projects, pro-EU NGOs and pro-EU governments, like the socialist government here in Spain. At the same time, they abuse the budget to blackmail EU-critical governments like Hungary, all in the name of the rule of law. More budget means more control and more power. The United Kingdom was a significant net contributor before leaving the EU. And despite the UK's departure from the EU, the overall budget increased 12% from 959 billion euros, that's the MFF 2014-2020, to 1,074.3 billion euros for the MFF 2021-2027. This will never happen in a normal business environment. The ECR approach can be summarized by doing less but better. Our first commitment is to performance-based budgeting. Every euro must be a catalyst for improvement, achieving tangible outcomes that citizens can feel in a positive way in their daily lives. We pledge to uphold the highest standards of transparency. It's absolutely necessary that every financial action within the EU is accountable, leaving no room for corruption, excess or inefficiency. To start with the President of the European Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, who has been accused by the European Ombudsman of maladministration regarding the expenditure of tens of billions of euros on the purchase of COVID vaccines. And her European Commission refused to answer the questions of the European Court of Auditors and MEPs in this matter. We need smart spending and smart future when it comes to immigration. We have to prioritize border security and increase security for our people. We will tackle illegal immigration much more fearlessly, and we will cooperate with third countries to do so. Turning to defense and security, we propose using existing resources more effectively rather than expanding budgets all the time. Our focus on empowering each member state while making cooperation easier. But as we strengthen our collective capabilities, defense remains a national prerogative. In agriculture, our commitment to smart spending means transforming our approach to sustainability. The common agricultural policy will be streamlined to reduce bureaucracy and increase support directly to our farmers and rural communities, ensuring they can thrive once again. And last but not least, no more common debt. No more next generation EU. By taking debt, you make use of our future prosperity. You take money that belongs to our children. We cannot saddle the next generation of Europeans with a mountain of debt, because you cannot build an economy on a mountain of debt. Common debts, or Eurobonds, are an open invitation to the European Commission to spend money we don't have. Trust me, that's not how it works in a business, and it shouldn't be how it works in the government either. In short, the EU should do less, and what it does, it should do better. We, as ECR, have the plans, and I look forward to seeing these plans be implemented by a strengthened ECR delegation in the next European Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. And last but not least, Paweł Jablonski, former Deputy Foreign Minister from Poland. Hi, Paweł. Thank you.
Hola a todos, buenas tardes. Amigos, muchas gracias por esta reunión.
Hello, everyone. Friends, thank you for all this fantastic meeting, for all the days we're spending together, for all the conversations, to everyone from all the regions of Spain and everywhere around the world. Greetings from Poland. And how would I summarize everything? The last point of our manifesto, the 10th point, charting Europe's course. What are we going to do in the future? Why are we here? Why do we fight every day? Why do we strive every day? Why do we do what we do in policy, in politics and social, in the social arena? Because we believe in Europe. We believe in our countries, in our nations. We believe in a Europe of nations, independent nations that cooperate, that collaborate, but also that enjoy their differences. Nations that know how to grow, they know how to develop, they know how to make Europe stronger. Precisely because of that, we want to enlarge our union. We want to be the strongest, safest continent. We want to invite new member states, new members that want to be members of our family. They do not want to come into the European Union to be governed by the bureaucracy of Berlin or Warsaw or Madrid or Brussels. They want to come into the European Union to develop, to grow, to be safer, but also to make their own decisions like we do. We want to take decisions here in Spain for the Polish, in Poland for the Polish, and in any country. We have our own right to decide for ourselves. We say yes to a stronger Europe, yes to a Europe that knows we are a family of different traditions, of various stories and histories, a Europe that's united, that has many values in common, and that acknowledges that diversity is our strength. So we continue to fight in order to maintain what's most important for us, our freedom, our independence, our traditions. This is the Europe we want, a Christian Europe, a Europe that protects our history and our tradition. We will continue to fight, and we will win. Long live Spain, long live Poland, long live Europe. Thank you very much, friends. Good evening.
Grazie Pavel. Stai con me, perché adesso di nuovo chiudiamo.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Stay with me because we're going to close this event. We'll stand up in order to see the flags. Video. Go upstairs to eat. You can see from there.